Chapter 1740. Ling Xiao wouldn't kill anyone unless it was a fight to the death. First, it was easy to make enemies, and second, it was a waste of energy. At this moment, the arena master suddenly understood that it wasn't that Ling Xiao looked down on him, but that he was too weak. What the hell, this guy is so strong. It's so fun to watch. The 1,000 mid-grade spirit stones were well spent. The burly man who'd thought Ling Xiao wouldn't be able to defeat Guan also came to the second floor to watch the show. Although this guy wasn't strong, he looked like a nouveau riche. He threw down mid-grade spirit stones without batting an eye. Seeing Ling Xiao's strength, he couldn't help but feel excited. Sun Lingchan and Jun Macho's expressions didn't change. If Ling Xiao couldn't even pass the first 10 floors, then he really didn't have the qualifications to participate in the White Tiger meet. Next was the 3rd floor, the 4th floor, the 8th floor, the 9th floor. Ling Xiao only used one punch in all of his battles. There were no variations. His fighting style was so simple that it made one's hair stand on end. But it was also frightening. Fairy Macho, the arena master of the 10th floor, should be your maid, right? Can she stop Ling Xiao? Sun Lingchan suddenly turned to look at Jun Macho. My maid isn't weak. He's dreaming if he thinks he can defeat her with one punch. Unless he shows a new ability, he won't be able to continue. Jun Macho had brought 4 maids and 4 bodyguards to Sky Sea City this time, and these 8 people were all arena masters of the Hell Tower. The weakest one was the arena master of the 10th floor. This guy was clearly looking for trouble. After taking the arena master seat, he mocked the Sky Sea Empire's martial artists. He seemed very pleased with himself. His ability is stronger than you think. Sun Lingchan smiled. You'll be very surprised. Is that so? My maid has cultivated an extremely profound movement technique. Although her overall strength may not be comparable to this Ling Xiao, if he can't defeat my maid within 100 moves, then he'll have failed the challenge. Jun Macho was still very confident. That's why I'm sure he'll stop here today. However, it's still not bad. For a young man who looks like he's only 17 or 18 years old to be the champion of the 9th floor, it's something to be proud of. Jun Macho looked very proud as he spoke. After all, the Jingyi school was the #1 sect on the White Tiger continent. Even the 4 great empires had to obey the orders of the Pope. Interesting. Where did this kid come from? He has actually already stepped into the 10th level. From the 10th floor onwards, special VIP rooms would be set up for the audience of high status. These VIP rooms could be moved up and down automatically. They could go up and down at will without walking out. This was the privilege of a VIP. There was tea and snacks in the VIP room, and the environment was very comfortable. At this moment, there were 4 people sitting in a VIP room on the 10th floor. The leader was actually the eldest son of the Fan family, Fan Ruohai. The other person was naturally one of the 4 talents of Tianhai, Mu Wanchuang. There were 2 other people sitting across from them. One was the 3rd young master of the Fan family, Fan Roland. The other was Fan Roland's friend, an expert from the White Tiger Empire's Dark Shrine, Yinmeng. Although Fan Roland was not as famous as Fan Ruohai, he did not belong to the 4 talents of Tianhai or the 7 small saints of Tianhai. However, when it came to him, there was no one who did not know him. It was only because he had publicly expressed his disdain for the title of the 7 small saints of Tianhai, and because he could not enter the ranks of the 4 talents, he simply did not want any title. This person was very arrogant. Of course, he had the capital to do so. The one who had just spoken was Yin Meng from the Dark Shrine. Fan Roland smiled and said, "But this kid is really unlucky." It was not easy to climb to the 10th floor, but he met Jun Macho's servant girl. That little girl is very strong. Yes, this little servant girl has fought with me before. Although she is not as good as me, her movements are quite strange. Generally, warriors of the same cultivation level as her would find it very difficult. Those with a higher cultivation level than her can't do anything to her. This Ling Xiao is so strong. We can't let him be too proud and think that our Fan family's hell tower is easy to climb. It's good to let this servant girl dampen his spirit. Yin Mang thought deeply and said, and this Ling Xiao actually exposed his strength from the start. In order to achieve a one-hit kill, he probably exploded with all his yin and yang energy. Now that he has kicked an iron plate, it's good to learn a lesson. Otherwise, he will think that there is no one on our White Tiger continent. In Yin Mang's view, Ling Xiao's so-called one-hit kill was completely achieved by exploding with all his strength in an instant. Even if Ling Xiao still had hidden strength, it could not be that strong. He thought that even if Jun Macho's servant girl could not stop Ling Xiao, she would still make Ling Xiao suffer greatly. However, Fan Ruohai just smiled and said nothing. Mu Wanshuang sneered secretly. The two of them had been paying attention to Ling Xiao ever since he stepped onto the 15th floor of the Wonder Tower and killed several White Tiger meat candidates. They knew that Ling Xiao had been able to dodge a move from the sacred sword of the Wind Demon, so he must be very capable. However, they did not know that Ling Xiao's one-hit kill was purely because his opponent was too weak and he did not want to waste time. Jun Macho's servant girl was a warrior who used a dagger. Naturally, this dagger was also selected from the weapon rack. Ling Xiao looked at her and still had no intention of using a weapon. You'd better get a weapon. Otherwise, if you die, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Jun Macho's servant girl looked coldly at Ling Xiao and said, make your move. You can't kill me. Ling Xiao's words were still the same. Even in the face of the 10th floor's champion, he did not care and his expression was as indifferent as before. It was as if Jun Macho's servant girl was still not worth mentioning in his eyes. What an arrogant boy. Today, I'll let you see the power of our Jingyi school's martial arts. Ling Xiao's tone made the servant girl very angry, and she immediately flew into a rage, because it seemed that she was being looked down upon by him. This kind of contempt made her extremely unhappy. The martial arts of the Jingyi school formed a system of its own. The moves were quite complicated, but definitely not useless. Every move was very scientific and very necessary. If one succeeded in cultivating it, it would be quite powerful. However, because it was too complicated, most warriors could not master it. Obviously, this servant girl was the same. She had only learned a little bit of the Jingyi school's martial arts. However, even so, it was already very powerful. When this set of dagger martial arts was displayed, coupled with her martial soul, it actually created a strange scene of snow flying all over the sky. This made Ling Xiao think of the swordsmanship he had once cultivated. Although that set of swordsmanship was no longer used, it was still a beautiful memory. The cold sword chi was overwhelming, not giving Ling Xiao any room to dodge. Moreover, these sword chi were full of freezing power, as if they wanted to freeze Ling Xiao's hands and feet. As a result, Ling Xiao could not make a move. Chapter 1741. The sword technique of the Jingyi school is just SOO. Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes slightly, and then turned his arm into a long sword. Sword intent erupted. He suddenly became interested and wanted to defeat his opponent with his sword technique. And the sword technique he was going to use was the relatively low-level Snow Lotus sword technique that he had previously cultivated. Although the sword technique could no longer adapt to the current battle due to the improvement of his cultivation. But the opponent was weaker. There was no harm in playing. Bastard, how dare you look down on the martial arts of the Jingyi school? The maidservant was even angrier. It's not that I look down on you, but your sword technique is indeed too weak. It's not even as good as my gold grade martial arts. After saying that, he turned his arm into a long sword and stabbed out. Flying snow. This move was extremely fast. It was not as luxurious as the maidservant's sword technique, but it defeated the enemy with one move. The cold snowflakes flew out and hit the maidservant's shoulder blade directly. Then an amazing force erupted and the maidservant was knocked out of the arena. Was it over? Looking at the arena dumbfounded, No one could believe such an ending. One move, another move. Although he had changed his moves, he had indeed defeated the maidservant with one move. Ha ha ha, see, Junmacho? I've already said that this kid is much more powerful than you think. Your maidservant tried to block his way. You underestimated him too much. In the VIP room, Sun Ling-chan was smiling beautifully and was very pleased with herself. It was as if she was the one who had won. Congratulations to Ling Xiao for successfully becoming the champion of the 10th floor. He will receive a waste token. Bing will be rewarded with an additional 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones. The host stepped onto the arena, raised Ling Xiao's right hand high, and said excitedly, "Interesting, I misjudged him. This person actually has some skills, but unfortunately, his sword technique is too weak. He won't be able to go far." Fan Wolin was stunned for a moment, and then he smiled. He still didn't take Ling Xiao seriously. Yin Meng also smiled and said, "If he can continue to go up, he will encounter the place I am guarding. Then he will really be unlucky." As a martial artist of the Dark God Palace, it was impossible for Yin Meng to not know Ling Xiao. He had a special feeling of enmity towards Ling Xiao. After all, Ling Xiao had uprooted the Dark God Hall's forces in the Divine Phoenix continent. According to the rules of the Hell Tower, every 10 floors had half an hour to an hour of rest time. During this period of time, the other high-level arena masters would be challenging each other so the audience would not feel bored. Ling Xiao was also fortunate enough to watch the battle of Junmacho, one of the 7 disciples of the Jingyi school, as the champion of the 10th floor. Junmacho was originally the champion of the 41st floor. While he was resting, he actually obtained consecutive victories and stepped into the 47th level in one go. Only the first 2 floors were left before reaching the 50th floor. The 50th floor was a huge hurdle. It meant a huge breakthrough. Not only could one obtain a lot of rewards, but it could also be considered a huge honor. On the 48th floor, Junmacho met a very difficult opponent. This person was around 50 years old. His talent wasn't very good, but because of his age, his strength wasn't weak. He seemed to be good at fire-type internal energy. Even his martial soul was a flaming sword. Fortunately, although the weapons on the weapon rack weren't magic weapons, they were more durable and didn't break easily. Otherwise, with his internal energy, he probably wouldn't even be able to use weapons. Facing this person, Junmacho really didn't have it easy. He actually used as many as 50 moves to finally defeat him. In the end, Junmacho was also a genius. The martial arts of the Jingyi school were indeed very powerful and not so easy to deal with. Interestingly, Junmacho seemed to have comprehended something in this battle. He easily won the next 49th and 50th floors. He became the champion of the 50th floor. As for the original champion, Ko Xiling, it was even more ridiculous. When Junmacho was fighting, he also began to challenge and became the champion of the 60th floor. Ling Xiao regretted not watching his battle. However, since he was going to challenge the 100th floor, he would probably meet this person sooner or later. So he didn't care too much. "Young Masterling, it's time for the break. Do you plan to continue challenging?" The host asked with a smile. "Of course." Ling Xiao nodded. However, once he started challenging, he couldn't stop anymore. Damn, who is this Ling Xiao? He has already reached the 19th floor. If he goes up, it will be the 20th floor. Is this guy going to defy the heavens? And from the 11th floor onwards, he defeated one person with one punch. I really don't understand. The martial artist guarding the 20th floor had a little relationship with Ling Xiao because he was the senior brother of Guan Hao, the champion of the first floor. Moreover, it was said that the moves he used were the same as Guan Hao's, but his saber was faster, fiercer, and more ruthless. Guan Hao lost, but I won't. It seemed that this senior brother was indeed stronger than Guan Hao. However, Ling Xiao still shook his head and sighed. He was a little disinterested. One punch is enough to deal with you. Ling Xiao was not looking down on his opponent, but the opponent at this stage was too weak. If it were Junmacho or Ko Xiling, he would be able to pick up his spirit and fight. But now he really wasn't in the mood. "You are indeed very arrogant." Hearing Ling Xiao's words, Senior Brother Guan Hao didn't want to continue. In his opinion, Ling Xiao was an arrogant fellow from head to toe. Only by using the saber in his hand could he convince the other party. Quick saber, flash! Senior Brother Guan Hao's saber was really fast. It looked like an ordinary move, but in his hands it was much stronger than Guan Hao's. In the void, saber light flashed, and the saber edge reached Ling Xiao's chest in an instant. Interesting move. I can let you have 2 moves first. Ling Xiao, who was attracted by Senior Brother Guan Hao's saber skill, didn't make a move. Instead, he flashed and appeared at the side. He said indifferently, for him, a fight that could help him improve his strength was worth spending some time on. Senior Brother Guan Hao's saber skill was actually useful for his sword skill. He could take a look. What a terrifying body movement! Senior Brother Guan Hao was stunned for a moment. Then a martial soul appeared behind him. It was a pair of strange wings. It wasn't a pair of wings, but a martial soul. The moment the martial soul appeared, Senior Brother Guan Hao was obviously faster. The second saber was even fiercer and faster. However, when the saber slashed out, it couldn't move. Ling Xiao clamped the saber blade with 2 fingers, making it impossible for the saber to move. 2 moves have passed. Lose. It was still a punch, but different from before on the 10th floor. Ling Xiao used the power of 200 Emperor. Senior Brother Guan Hao's flying movement was almost exactly the same as Guan Hao's. He was also defeated very easily. He was also completely defeated. After falling to the ground, he couldn't resist at all. Cries of surprise came from the audience. Ling Xiao's performance today was truly an eye-opener for them. Chapter 1742. Ling Xiao easily defeated Senior Brother Guan Hao and became the champion of the 20th floor. This shocked many spectators. In the VIP room, Fan Ruohai and Mu Wanchuang's expressions didn't change. However, Yin Mang from the Dark God Hall frowned. This Ling Xiao is more difficult to deal with than I thought. This person's movement technique is so terrifying. Coupled with his terrifying strength, it's really not easy to deal with him. Scared? Fan Roland smiled. Actually, fast movement techniques are meaningless in the arena. Your martial soul is specialized in restraining martial artists with fast movement techniques. Then, you just need to use your long-range attacks to exhaust him and prevent him from getting close to you. Then, his monstrous strength will be useless. Young Master Fan, you're joking. Why would I be afraid of him? I just feel that he's more powerful than I thought. As long as he can reach the 30th floor, I'll cripple him. Yin Mang licked his lips and revealed a cruel smile. After defeating Guan Hao's senior brother, Ling Xiao stepped into the 20th floor. In addition to the 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones that he was supposed to get from the 10th floor to the 20th floor, he also got an extra 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones as a reward. According to the rules, the extra reward for every 10th floor would increase greatly. The 10th floor was 10,000, the 20th floor was 100,000, the 30th floor was 200,000, and so on. In fact, apart from the 10th floor to the 20th floor, it was equivalent to an extra 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones for every 10th floor. If one could reach the 100th floor, or if there were special circumstances, the reward would become high-grade spirit stones. 1 million high-grade spirit stones. It was an astronomical figure. High-grade spirit stones were not mid-grade or low-grade spirit stones. They were almost impossible to find in transactions. Even in the Immortal Lyceum, they were still precious spirit stones. They were an urgent necessity for cultivation. Just as Ling Xiao was resting, in the VIP room where Fan Rohai was, an old man said respectfully, "Eldest young master, 3rd young master, you've seen it. This kid has challenged the 20th floor consecutively. He's very strong. Do you want to stop him? After all, he's only a martial artist from the Dragon Phoenix continent. If he wins too many times, I'm afraid it will affect the reputation of the White Tiger continent. It's not worth it. The 30th floor is Yin Mang. He can't pass it. Fan Ruolin waved his hand and said, "Now, you should be concerned about Ko Xiling and Jun Macho. Ko Xiling has already reached the 60th floor. Jun Macho also reached the 50th floor. Can the arena master above do it? If not, we can switch to our own people to stop him. No one will know anyway. Let's do as third young master says." Fan Ruohai smiled slightly and said, "As for Ko Xiling and Jun Macho, there is no need to deliberately block them. The higher he went, the stronger the champion was. Ko Xiling's limit was estimated to be the 70th floor. This person's level was about the same as the 7 little saints of the heavenly ocean. As for that Jun Macho, he is even more difficult to deal with than Ko Xiling. I estimate that he can reach the 80th floor, or even the 89th floor. This subordinate understands." The elder retreated. Since the eldest and third young masters felt that there was no need to stop these 3 people, then he would do as they said. After all, the current champion of the 90th floor was Sun Lingchan, one of the 4 prodigies of Tianhai. Whether it was Ko Xiling or Jun Macho, it was unlikely that they could defeat her. As for that Ling Xiao, it was still too early. Ling Xiao didn't know that he had become a very eye-catching existence in the Hell Tower. Many people were watching him, wanting to know how far he could go. Moreover, he didn't need to know. This time he only had one goal, and that was to reach the 100th floor. No matter what method he used, he had to obtain the map of this secret realm. While Ling Xiao was resting, Jun Macho and Ko Xiling started their challenge. Just as Fan Ruohai expected, Jun Macho encountered a very terrifying obstruction on the 70th floor. His opponent was actually the 3rd young master of the Fan family, Fan Ruolin. This Fan Ruolin's methods were simply unfathomable. After fighting for 200 rounds, Ko Xiling was defeated in the end. He had no choice but to temporarily stay on the 69th floor. Haha, I haven't been challenged in a long time. This Ko Xiling is really not bad. To be able to fight me for 200 rounds, he should be the strongest challenger in the Hell Tower this month, right? Fan Ruolin said with a smile after returning to the VIP room. In fact, he could continue to challenge, but he chose not to. It was more fun to stay on the 70th floor and abuse people. Don't forget, there is still Jun Macho. Fan Ruohai reminded. Fan Ruolin smiled and said, "Although Jun Macho is powerful, he may not be able to defeat Ko Xiling." His insight was not bad. Jun Macho easily passed all the rounds. When he met Ko Xiling, it could be said that he met his match. After fighting for more than 500 rounds, he finally defeated Ko Xiling. But she was also exhausted. At this time, the recovery wine's effect was not so good, so she had to rest for a long time. Ko Xiling went down 1 floor and became the champion of the 68th floor. In this way, the 68th, 69th, and 70th floors were simply terrifying. 3 people in a row. All of them were super strong. But then again, after the 50th floor, there were basically no weak people. The reason why Ko Xiling and Jun Macho could go up 1 step was because they were stronger. While the 2 of them were resting, Ling Xiao went up again and continued to challenge people. From the 21st floor to the 29th floor, Ling Xiao basically didn't bat an eyelid and easily defeated his opponents with 1 punch. At this time, outside the Hell Pagoda, many martial artists who had just arrived were discussing a matter. Did you hear? There's a kid from the Dragon Phoenix continent who defeated all his opponents from the 1st floor to the 20th floor in 1 move. He's too powerful. Bragging. I'm not bragging. I just got the latest news. He has already reached the 30th floor and still defeated his opponents with 1 move. But this time, the champion is more troublesome. It's Yin Mang from the Dark God Palace. Yin Mang? That White Tiger Empire's Yin Mang. Yeah, who else could it be? I heard that his hidden weapons come and go like ghosts. It's simply impossible to guard against. I don't know if this Ling Xiao can continue his miracles. It's useless to talk about it here. Let's go and watch. A group of people rushed into the Hell Pagoda. After paying enough spirit stones, they came to the 30th floor to watch the battle. At this time, Yin Meng had already entered the arena. Ling Xiao on the other side was still barehanded. He didn't have any intention of drawing his sword. Yin Meng didn't talk nonsense because he wanted nothing more than for Ling Xiao to look down on him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A hidden weapon pierced through the air. It wasn't a magic treasure, but a hidden weapon made with a martial soul. His martial soul was actually a huge spider. Ling Xiao had encountered such a martial soul when he was in the Yuehua school. Moreover, that martial soul seemed to be the queen of spiders, which was even stronger than this spider martial soul. However, the martial artist who used the queen of spiders was too weak and couldn't be compared to Yin Meng. Yin Meng was a yin-yang realm expert. That martial artist was only in the martial vein realm. Chapter 1743. The hidden weapons released by Yin Meng were the mucus spat out by the martial soul spider. As the mucus flew through the air, it quickly solidified and there were special patterns on it. It looked very strange. When the hidden weapons broke through the air, the spider webs had already covered the entire stage. Ling Xiao had no place to hide. This was also the reason why Fan Rolin said that Ling Xiao's movement technique would be useless. "You want to kill me?" Ling Xiao did not dodge. He only looked at the hidden weapons coming from all directions and asked, "That's right. You destroyed the foundation of our Dark God Hall in the Divine Phoenix Continent. I must kill you." Yin Meng said coldly, "If you want to kill me, you better be prepared to be killed. I will definitely not show mercy." Ling Xiao's body suddenly flickered with light. In an instant, the high temperature caused the spider webs to burn, and the hidden weapons that flew over were also instantly melted by the terrifying high temperature. "Good kid, you do have some skills. It seems that I have underestimated you, but that was just the appetizer. If you can't even block my hidden weapons, then you don't have the qualifications for me to use my full strength." Yin Meng sneered. The originally ordinary spider webs were instantly broken and replaced by scarlet-red spider webs. These spider webs were of the fire attribute. Even Ling Xiao's high temperature was unable to melt them. "Use my full strength? You seem to have forgotten that I haven't made my move yet." Ling Xiao glanced at Yin Meng. Suddenly, a terrifying murderous aura was released. A terrifying shadow appeared on his body. That was not a martial soul phantom. It was a terrifying demonic shadow formed by the murderous aura. In that instant, Yin Meng's body trembled. He actually had the thought of retreating. Murderous aura into a demon. I didn't expect your murderous aura to have evolved to such a terrifying stage. This is something that even many of our White Tiger Continent's Dark God Hall's gold medal assassins can't do. Murderous aura pressing the enemy. Murderous aura condensing. Murderous aura dense. Murderous aura into a demon. This was the Dark God Hall's definition of the 4 stages of murderous aura. Martial artists in the outside world were not familiar with this, but this did not affect the strength of their murderous aura. Murderous aura demon was the highest level of murderous aura in the Dark God Palace. Yin Meng didn't expect Ling Xiao to be a self-taught genius. Without anyone's guidance or learning any secret manuals, he could reach such a level. He even sighed in his heart. If only Ling Xiao was a martial artist of the Dark God Palace. But sighing wouldn't make him feel pity. The Dark God Palace had to be avenged. Facing Ling Xiao's murderous aura, Yin Meng's expression became serious. He took 4 or 5 steps back to lessen the pressure on him. Then a terrifying yin-yang origin energy surged out of his hands. In that instant, the yin and yang essence energy actually condensed into a strange spider. The ferocious spider bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Its huge, lantern-like eyes stared fixedly at Ling Xiao. Dark, purple poisonous fog filled the air, forming strange, small whirlwinds. Poison-killing palm, venomous spider! Rumble. Just as Yin Meng unleashed his killing move, Ling Xiao's fist also blasted over. This fist contained 300 royal heaven-earth power. Its explosive power was absolutely shocking. The green light constantly tore those spider webs and whirlwinds apart. Golden light wrapped around the fist, constantly increasing its strength and defense. The power of the Royal Heaven Queen of Earth was truly a set of perfect fusion powers. After the terrifying poisonous whirlwinds were torn apart by the fist, they splattered out in all directions of the ring. The host in midair had a solemn expression. He hurriedly used his movement technique to dodge continuously. The ring was built with special materials, but at this time it was corroded by this poisonous whirlwind until it was full of holes. Looking carefully at those corroded areas, the deepest part was actually a full 4 to 5 meters deep. This was just the sputtering from the attack. If really touched by the poisonous whirlwind, one would probably turn into white bones instantly. This Yin Mang's strength was really much stronger than the previous 29 people. Ling Xiao even felt that even if this guy wanted to continue advancing, it would be very easy. He didn't know why he kept staying on the 30th level. But now wasn't the time to think about this. Bang! The poisonous spider collided together with Ling Xiao's fist with a loud bang. In just an instant, that enormous spider seemed to have suffered heavy injuries, being beaten until its body was distorted, wailing miserably, repeatedly. The scene was very strange for a moment. I don't believe that this punch of yours can defeat me. Get lost for me. Yin Mang was unwilling to let Ling Xiao get close because what he was skilled in was hidden weapon techniques. Even the poison-killing palm was also a long-range attack martial technique. Being approached by Ling Xiao at this time, he was clearly a little flustered. Hence, in his panic, he actually urged the yin-yang essence energy to 100% instantly. In that instant, the originally distorted and deformed poisonous spider recovered to its original appearance anew. Not just that, that spider actually looked like it was real. The venom dripping from the corners of the spider's mouth onto the ground could actually really corrode and penetrate the ground directly. Exterminate! Ling Xiao's expression did not change. It was just that on his fist he added another 100 Royal Heaven Earth power. 400 Royal Heaven Earth power cells released horrifying power. Bang! That poisonous spider was finally completely shattered by one punch. The remnant fist force slammed onto Yin Mang's body, blasting Yin Mang back repeatedly. It was a pity that the majority of the fist force was already exhausted by that poisonous spider. Hence, it should be very hard for this punch to knock Yin Mang out of the arena. Of course, Ling Xiao did not plan on doing that either, because Yin Mang was different from others. This guy wanted to kill him, then he would counter-kill him. If he was knocked out of the arena, the battle would also be over. Terrifying fellow, this punch should be your strongest attack, right? Very good. I'll make you thoroughly despair today. Yin Mang, who was standing at the edge of the arena, actually had both hands trembling nonstop. That bizarre fist force still made him suffer the torment of pain at this time. It was like maggots latching onto bones, truly terrifying, but he remained tough on the surface. Ling Xiao looked at Yin Mang calmly and said with a smile, "That palm just now, you used 100% yin-yang essence energy. Honestly speaking, if your ability is limited to this, best get lost quickly. You can still preserve your little life. I admit that I did use 100% yin-yang essence energy just now, but that move was not my strongest martial technique. If you think that you can be compared to me with just that punch, then you're still ignorant. Then you're still too ignorant." As he spoke, Yin Mang swallowed a pill. He could clearly feel his yin-yang essence energy recovering at an accelerated rate. The Hell Tower did not allow the use of magic treasures, but it did not prohibit the use of pills and special foods. This Fan clan was really smart. One had to know that their Fan clan controlled close to 1/3 of the medicine market in the 4 great empires, as well as close to 90% of the special foods market. The other 2/3 of the medicine market was pretty much split between the Medicine King Pavilion and the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company. It could be said that the other medicine merchants only had a very small share of the market. Chapter 1744. In this underground world, the Fan family's medicine market share was as high as 90%. Basically, martial artists who needed to buy pills and special food would choose them. Allowing them to use pills and special food was actually just to promote their products. Am I ignorant? Ling Xiao smiled and said, "So you still have a trump card?" "Of course. I originally wanted to let you die quickly. But since you don't know what's good for you, I can only go all out and let you die without a complete corpse. You will die under the most painful torture." As he spoke, Yin Mang's aura became stronger and stronger. His terrifying aura continued to rise as more and more poisonous whirlwinds formed around his body. These poisonous whirlwinds could not only be used for defense, but also for attack. They were definitely the best weapons for him. However, this was not his killing move. That punch from Ling Xiao just now really made him feel incomparably shocked. However, he was not afraid. One had to know that if Yin Mang was under 30 years old, he would be at least at the level of the 7 small saints of Tianhai. He only admired the 4 prodigies of Tianhai and the genius of the Dark God Hall. Dark Godyu. He was the strongest genius of the Dark God Hall, and also someone who was about to participate in the White Tiger meet. He was definitely in the top 3 of the White Tiger Empire. Moreover, Dark Godyu was the young master of the Dark God Hall. If the young master knew that Yin Mang was killed by Ling Xiao, a martial artist from the Dragon Phoenix continent, even if his corpse was sent back to the Dark God Hall, it would be fed to the fish, because it was too embarrassing. Moreover, he still had his strongest move that he had yet to use. He did not believe that Ling Xiao could block it. Looking at Yin Mang, Ling Xiao felt that this person really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. A cold light flashed in the corner of his eyes. Since Yin Mang wanted to die, he could not blame him. He did not have to be enemies with the Dark God Hall, but if they wanted to kill him, he had no reason to retreat. "Then I'll let you use your last move, and then you'll die convinced." Ling Xiao's words made Yin Mang's face even darker. He looked coldly at Ling Xiao, and a sinister expression appeared on his face. "Good, you're really arrogant. However, it's a pity that you won't have any more chances now that I've used this move." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind suddenly appeared on the stage. It was a gust of wind that was filled with poison. Many of the spectators in the front row hurriedly used their moves to block the poison fog. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, stood in the middle of the poisonous fog and breathed freely as if he didn't care about it at all. Behind Yin Mang, the giant spider martial soul arrived in front of him and merged with his yin-yang origin energy. A terrifying aura was constantly being released. "This is my ultimate move, Yin Mang." The most terrifying thing was that as the giant spider flew, its abdomen split open, and a large number of small spiders fell to the ground like ants. They formed a black mass and surrounded Ling Xiao. At the same time, countless silk threads shot towards Ling Xiao, entangling Ling Xiao. There was no way for him to dodge. Haha, Ling Xiao is finished. In the VIP room, Fan Ruolin clapped his hands and laughed. If he didn't let Yin Mang use this move and admitted defeat, he might have a chance to survive. But now he's definitely going to die. The Dark God Hall's ultimate move, combined with the giant spider martial soul, is really difficult to deal with. Even I find it difficult to deal with. Fan Ruolin did not know why, but he always had an inexplicable hostility towards Ling Xiao. Of course, it could also be because Yin Mang was one of his people. So, he definitely did not want Yin Mang to lose to Ling Xiao. Moreover, at this moment, it was obvious that Yin Mang had the absolute advantage in the battle. He could almost see Ling Xiao's tragic death. In the other VIP room, Jun Macho also laughed. "Seems like this is the end for Ling Xiao. I say, Fairy Ling Chan, I'm afraid he won't be able to fight with me. The battle hasn't ended yet. Why do you have to come to a conclusion so early? Aren't you afraid of being slapped in the face?" Sun Ling Chan smiled slightly. Ling Xiao's life and death did not have much to do with her, because even if Ling Xiao died, she could still get back the 20 dragons' bloodgrass. But at this moment, she was very confident in Ling Xiao. This was because she had thought of the move that Ling Xiao had used against Shangguan Qing'er back at the Medicine King Pavilion. If that move was used, Yin Mang would be the one to die. But why didn't he use it? To be honest, Sun Lingchan was also a little confused. Ha ha ha, Fairy Lingchan, could it be that you have taken a fancy to that kid? You actually think so highly of him. It's a pity that he's only of such standard. Even if you think highly of him, it's meaningless. Jun Macho mocked. Sun Lingchan did not say anything and continued to look at the arena calmly. Perhaps after this move, the outcome would be decided. It was obvious who would live and who would die. The rest of the audience also cheered loudly. Most of the audience here were martial artists from the White Tiger continent. Looking on helplessly as a martial artist from the Dragon Phoenix continent flaunted his might here, they had long been displeased in their hearts. Now that Yin Mang had appeared and blocked Ling Xiao's path, it was obvious that he was about to win. To them, this was definitely a huge blessing. They really could not wait to see Ling Xiao lose. In the arena, time seemed to have stopped. Ling Xiao was wrapped in countless spider webs, and a black mass of spiders was approaching along the spider webs. From an outsider's point of view, he was a delicacy in the spiders' stomachs. It was impossible to turn the tables. The Dark God Palace's martial arts really have many tricks. Combining martial soul to fight, it's even harder to deal with than ordinary martial arts. Ling Xiao stood there with a calm expression, as if the danger in front of him was not worth mentioning at all. Instead, he even comprehended some things from this Yin Mang's attack. It was this kind of crazy learning consciousness that allowed his battles to often integrate the advantages of many martial arts. In this aspect, many people could not compare to him. However, in front of him, it was still nothing. 400 Emperor, Earth Empress. It was still just a punch. Ling Xiao did not plan to use any other moves. A terrifying green light was released, and the spider webs wrapped around his body broke inch by inch. After that, Ling Xiao, who regained his freedom, blasted out a terrifying punch. Immediately, the entire arena was stirred up by a gust of wind, and the yellow soil flew. In the blink of an eye, all the spiders were naturally gone. The arena that was originally filled with spider webs and spiders actually became empty at this time. Only Ling Xiao and Yin Mang were still standing there, and Ling Xiao's fist was still moving forward. This is impossible. How can Yin Mang's ultimate move be broken so easily? Inside the VIP room, Fan Rollin directly jumped up from his chair, looking at the scene on the arena in astonishment, completely unable to believe what his eyes saw. Chapter 1745. Jun Macho's hands were gripping the seat tightly, and her face was filled with disbelief. Sun Lingchan smiled and said, "Fairy Macho, I've disappointed you again." In fact, even she was a little shocked. She thought that Ling Xiao would solve the problem with his powerful sword, but she did not expect that Ling Xiao could solve the problem with just a punch. What did that mean? It probably meant that Ling Xiao's strength was much more than that. This guy. No wonder Shangguan Qing'er was so passive. It seemed that it was not a coincidence. Impossible. Impossible. How could you break my ultimate move so easily? Yin Mang's body kept retreating, trying to avoid Ling Xiao's fierce punch. Before the punch arrived, the terrifying wind had already whistled. Yin Mang's face was filled with horror. In front of him, there was only the terrifying punch. If he did not escape now, he would die. He wanted to kill Ling Xiao, and Ling Xiao would definitely not show mercy. At this moment, the only way to save his life was to escape from the arena. As for his face, he did not care anymore. Compared to his face, his life was more important. Run! At this moment, Yin Mang did not care about anything else. Using all his remaining inner strength, he leaped down from the arena. However, Ling Xiao's punch was faster than his speed. Kill! In the void, a huge shadow of a fist appeared, and then crazily rushed out, hitting Yin Mang's body. The terrifying fist force completely shattered the Een light into powder, leaving not a single trace behind. Not only that, even half of the shattered arena was destroyed by the energy of the punch. The audience was silent for a long time. It was not until a few minutes later that someone shouted, "Oh my God, it's too terrifying. The power of this punch is obviously much stronger than before. This is a martial artist who destroys everything. Almost scared me to death, my little heart." The host couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. He knew very well what kind of material the arena was made of, yet it was actually blasted into smithereens by a single punch from this person. Just how terrifying was this guy's fist strength? However, in the VIP room, Fan Rollin revealed a sinister smile. "Those who killed my people deserve to die. Third young master, are you confident in defeating him?" Mu Wanshuang suddenly asked. "Of course I'm confident. I'm afraid that this punch of his has already revealed all of his trump cards. What else could be more shocking?" Fan Rollin glanced at Mu Wanshuang and said coldly. Mu Wanshuang was only Fan Ruahai's maidservant. However, this woman was scheming and powerful. She was also favored by Fan Ruahai. Even he, the third young master of the Fan family, did not dare to offend her. In another VIP room, Sun Lingchan smiled and said, "How is it, Fairy Macho? This kid has already won 30 consecutive matches and has become the champion of the 30th floor. Are you still looking down on him? Humph, a brat who only knows how to use brute force. What's so great about him?" Jun Macho said disdainfully, "There's something I have to remind Fairy Macho. This person is best at swordsmanship, not fists." Sun Lingchan said with a smile, "What, do you mean that he's still hiding his strength?" Jun Macho could not help but be moved this time. "Perhaps. Anyway, I've seen his brilliant sword move. It's really impressive. Moreover, he's only 17 years old. This kind of genius is probably not inferior to you, Jun Macho. Do you think that he's a genius on the same level as the 7 little saints of Tianhai?" Jun Macho asked with a frown. "No, he's at least on the same level as Water Shensi. Among the 7 little saints of Tianhai, only Water Shensi and Xiao Badian can defeat him. The rest of them can't." Sun Lingchan shook her head and said, "You're exaggerating. Then let me see how far he can go." Jun Macho was full of fighting spirit. She would not underestimate Ling Xiao now, but she still did not think that Ling Xiao could be her opponent. "But sister, don't you think that this person is a little too arrogant and flamboyant? It's his first time challenging the Hell Pagoda, and he wants to continue fighting. Moreover, every move he makes is so domineering." Hua Hua frowned and asked Sun Lingchan, "Flamboyant?" Sun Lingchan only smiled noncommittally and did not answer. On the stage, Ling Xiao felt a little wronged. In fact, from the beginning of the battle until now, he had not even used 30% of his combat strength. He had only used the power of the Imperial Heaven Earth Queen. At most, he had only used 300 Imperial Heaven Earth Queen. As a matter of fact, his Royal Heaven Earth power had already reached 600 points. Not to mention, his Light Shadow Profound was the most terrifying killing move. The combination of his various martial souls was simply impossible to guard against. And the most powerful martial soul, the Sky Tyrant martial soul. He suppressed all of this and did not use it because there was an even stronger opponent ahead of him. Unfortunately, the audience did not know. They felt that he was too flamboyant. It was really helpless. If he really made a move, even if there were 10 Een rays, he would definitely kill them instantly. Why would he need to fight like this? In the following battle, Ling Xiao brought an even more shocking side to the audience. From the 30th to the 40th floor, he had used the Imperial Heaven Earth Queen Fist with 300 Imperial Heaven Earth Queen. It was simple. He won all the way in a domineering manner. This made everyone in the audience stand dumbfounded. Of course, during this process, Lan Jing, who was originally the 40th floor's champion, had already reached the 60th floor and became the champion of the 60th floor. Therefore, Ling Xiao did not encounter this enemy that he had known before. Lan Jing was an enemy that he had encountered on the Sacred Dynasty's Fairy Island. However, Lan Jing's cultivation was only at the first level of the Yin Yang realm back then. The current Lan Jing was obviously very different from before. He seemed to have been turned into a war puppet by someone. While his strength had skyrocketed, only his consciousness remained. And that was revenge. Lan Jing only knew that he had an enemy called Ling Xiao. He only knew that he had to kill Ling Xiao. He's already the champion of the 40th floor. How much potential does this guy have? He's still fighting one person with one punch? Haha, in every battle he solves the problem with one punch. I can't tell that he used his inner strength at all. That's why he didn't choose to rest for such a long time, right? However, it's troublesome above the 60th floor. He has to continuously encounter Lan Jing, Ko Xiling, Jun Macho, and Fan Roland. I'm afraid he won't be so lucky. That was what the audience thought. However, they were still looking forward to it. Then, in their anticipation, Ling Xiao used the 400 Imperial Heaven-Earth Queen Fist with Imperial Heaven-Earth Queen Fist to fight his way to the 50th floor and defeated the champion of the 50th floor. The entire process looked so easy. Not even a drop of sweat fell from Ling Xiao's forehead. In the VIP room, Fan Roland's expression turned ugly. Did I really misjudge him? This kid is much stronger than I imagined. Thinking of this, Fan Roland felt uncomfortable in his heart. He couldn't accept that he had made an error in judgment. Chapter 1746. Third young master, why are you so nervous? I bet that he won't reach the 70th floor. Don't forget about the 3 people before him. It's an insurmountable gap, especially Jun Macho, Fairy Macho. Third young master, do you think that kid can beat her? The elder in charge of the Hell Tower was high and mighty in front of others, but he was naturally very humble in front of the Fan family's young master. Ha ha ha, you're right. Let's just sit here and watch the show. Fan Roland seemed to be relieved as he laughed. Ling Xiao didn't know what was happening in the VIP room. He was currently calculating the spirit stones he had earned from fighting for so long. From the 1st floor to the 50th floor, the normal income was 500,000 mid-grade spirit stones. There were also many special income. 500,000, 400,000, 300,000, 200,000, 100,000, and 10,000. In total, he had earned 51 million mid-grade spirit stones. Until now, he had earned a total of 1 million mid-grade spirit stones. This was much easier than selling pills to earn spirit stones. Not to mention, after the 50th floor, he could choose a special prize for every floor. Ling Xiao chose the Fan family's special delicacy, the 500-year-old ice fire fruit, on the 50th floor. After obtaining it, he ate it immediately. The moment he ate it, he felt the energy in his body jump as if he was about to break through again. The effect is still a little weak. I need another one, and I'll probably be able to break through to the peak of the 6th level of the Yin Yang realm. Ling Xiao didn't need to accumulate energy now. This was because his body was constantly accumulating energy. Even the energy absorbed by the Blood Soul Talisman was constantly entering his body. He only needed to find the opportunity to break through. That kind of bitter cultivation didn't seem to suit him anymore. That was why he kept looking for battles. Only battles could stimulate the potential and energy in his body and awaken the dormant cells. Let the battles be more intense. Ling Xiao had a feeling that there was something in the Hell Tower that was very beneficial to him. The energy that was very compatible with the primordial heavenly demon was definitely not fake. His feeling was very real. The following battles were very easy until he reached the 60th floor. Ling Xiao used 500 Imperial Heaven Queen of Earth powers and fought his way to the 60th level, where he encountered the Blue Whale. Currently, Lan Jing's cultivation base was at the peak of the 7th level of Yin Yang realm. This made Ling Xiao very confused. After all, this person's cultivation was only at the first level of the Yin-Yang realm when he fought against him on the Sacred Dynasty's Immortal Island. After careful observation, he discovered that the blue whale was no longer human-like from the inside out. This was the result of the fusion of a 7th-level Yin-Yang realm demonic beast and a martial artist. Seeing the confrontation between Ling Xiao and the blue whale, Fan Ruolin smiled as he sipped his tea. Judging from the current situation, Ling Xiao's cultivation base is probably at the 4th level of the Yin-Yang stage at most. However, this fellow possesses brute force and can challenge those of a higher level. He was definitely a genius. However, it's a pity that he's facing a 7th-level Yin-Yang realm blue whale. Moreover, it's a killing machine with only the desire for revenge. Third young master is right. Even if Ling Xiao wins by luck, he'll consume a lot of energy. Even if he drinks the recovery wine, he won't be able to recover in a short time. Therefore, he'll have to announce that he'll stop the challenge. Otherwise, he'll definitely lose in the next battle and won't even be able to reach Ko Xilin's level. The Hell Tower manager said with a smile, it looks like he's in the bag. It's already a miracle for a martial artist from the Dragon Phoenix continent to reach the 60th floor. We definitely can't let him continue to be arrogant. Otherwise, the White Tiger continent's martial artists will lose face. Fan Ruolin nodded and said with a smile. Fan Ruohai did not look at his third brother. He only looked at the arena outside the window. Ling Xiao's performance had refreshed his expectations again and again. He wanted to rope this person in more and more now. Even if it was for this person, he would not hesitate to give away his most beloved maidservant, Mu Wanshuang. However, whether Ling Xiao had the qualifications to do so, he still had to wait and see. At the very least, Ling Xiao had to be stronger than Mu Wanshuang to be qualified to get Mu Wanshuang. Otherwise, what right did he have? The battle on the 60th floor soon kicked off. Many people had prepared snacks and were ready to watch a wonderful battle, because in everyone's opinion, Ling Xiao would not be able to defeat Lanjing as easily as he did in the previous battles. At the very least, he would have to fight for 500 to 600 rounds. If there were no snacks to accompany him, it would be too boring. However, as soon as the battle began, everyone who had just eaten a mouthful of snacks spat them out. Damn it! How could he toy with people like this? And it was only one move. Ling Xiao defeated Lanjing more easily than he had defeated any other martial artist before, because this kind of fused monster had 2 obvious flaws. It was impossible for it to escape his Tai Chi eye. Once he found a flaw, he moved in front of Lanjing in a flash and punched out. The battle ended just like that. You are persistent enough to take revenge. Although I don't know who transformed you into this ghost, I think only death can set you free. Ling Xiao sighed. The hatred on the fairy island of the Sacred Dynasty was actually not that serious. So this time, instead of saying that he wanted to kill Lanjing, it was better to say that he wanted to set this guy free. It was really painful to live like this every day, neither a human nor a ghost. Because Ling Xiao had killed Lanjing with one punch, the audience fell into a short silence. After a while, it exploded like a volcano eruption. However, more people were cursing Ling Xiao than cheering for Ling Xiao. It was still the same sentence as before. The martial artists of the White Tiger continent really did not want to see the martial artists of the Dragon Phoenix continent so complacent in the Hell Tower. I didn't expect this guy to defeat Lanjing so easily. Yeah, this year, only Ko Xiling and Jun Macho can reach the 60th floor. All the other champions have successfully defended their title before. Could it be that this Ling Xiao is actually a powerful existence like Ko Xiling and Jun Macho? Why think so much now? Anyway, Ling Xiao will soon face Ko Xiling. The battle between these two will tell us whether Ling Xiao has the ability to be on par with Ko Xiling and Jun Macho. Hee. I think Ling Xiao may not be able to meet Ko Xiling. After the 60th floor, each opponent is stronger than the last. It's not that I look down on him, but it's really difficult. That's right. After all, this kid is just a martial artist from the Dragon Phoenix continent. How strong can he be? I don't believe it. You don't believe it, but I do. I think he is stronger than Ko Xiling. There was also a debate in the audience, and this debate would probably continue until Ling Xiao was defeated. Some people bet that Ling Xiao would win, and some people bet that Ling Xiao would lose. This was the fun of the competition. Chapter 1747. Usually, the number of spectators would dwindle from the 60th floor onwards, because the fees were higher and many martial artists could not afford it. However, this time, Ling Xiao's appearance caused an uproar in the underground world. Countless martial artists swarmed into the Hell Tower to see how far Ling Xiao could go. Of course, there was no lack of rich people among these people. After defeating Lan Jing, the arena masters did not intend to challenge him because the other high-level martial artists did not intend to challenge him. After resting for less than 5 minutes, Ling Xiao proposed to continue the challenge. Time was extremely precious to him, and he did not want to waste it. During these 5 minutes, Ling Xiao ate an 800-year-old ice-fire fruit. Unfortunately, his cultivation did not break through this time. After all, if he broke through from the peak of the 6th level of the Yin-Yang realm, he would be at the 7th level of the Yin-Yang realm. This was a very obvious gap, and it would not be easy for Ling Xiao to cross it. However, the 800-year-old ice-fire fruit had a certain effect. He could feel that the barrier to the breakthrough was loosening. What he needed to do next was battle. He needed to use the battle to loosen the barrier and finally break through it. Although the 5-minute break was very short, no one objected to it. Especially the people in the Hell Tower, they were very happy. After all, the spectators would cause trouble if there was no show to watch. From the 60th floor to the 68th floor, Ling Xiao's battle did not seem to be any different from before. He was still as relaxed as before, and there were no obstacles to speak of. One punch. From beginning to end, it was only one punch. However, only Ling Xiao knew that if he wanted to defeat his opponent now, he would have to use all of his Imperial Heaven Earth power. If his opponent was stronger, he would have to use the light and shadow profound meaning. Of course, he was not afraid because of this. The stronger the opponent, the greater the stimulation to him, and the greater the help it would provide him. The 68th floor. The arena master is Ko Xiling. It will be difficult for Ling Xiao to encounter Ko Xiling. Although Ko Xiling lost to Jun Macho, it was only a narrow defeat. I heard that his cultivation has reached the peak of the 8th level of the Yin-Yang realm. That's right. Ling Xiao's good luck ends here. That's right. Moreover, even if Ling Xiao miraculously defeats Ko Xiling, he will definitely be defeated by Jun Macho. Don't tell me he is going to finish off Ko Xiling with one punch again. That's impossible. Do you really think Ko Xiling is a good-for-nothing like Lan Jing? Ling Xiao had already appeared in the arena, standing opposite Ko Xiling. Whoosh! This time, Ling Xiao waved his hand and a long sword from the weapon rack fell into his hand. It was still convenient to use. It was just a little light, but it was still passable. Ko Xiling used a saber. Sabers and swords were both very powerful weapons. As for which one was stronger, it all depended on the ability of the user. Your performance was very exciting. I hope that you won't disappoint me in this battle. Ko Xiling rested his broadsword on his shoulder and looked at Ling Xiao with a smile. Whether the battle is exciting or not depends on your strength. Make your move. Ko Xiling was at peak Yin-Yang realm stage 8. He was indeed not the kind of enemy that could be killed in one move. Hence, Ling Xiao decided to use a sword. He also wanted to see Ko Xiling's saber technique. Although there was a huge difference between a sword and a saber, there were many similarities. Perhaps he could comprehend something of his own from another person's saber technique. Raging lightning seals the sky. Ko Xiling brandished his broadsword and used an extremely powerful jade grade saber technique. When Ko Xiling executed Raging Lightning Seals the Sky, it was even stronger than when he fought Jun Macho. It looked like Ko Xiling knew that he was not Jun Macho's match. so he did not use his full strength. Now that he met Ling Xiao, he was prepared to use his full strength. Raging lightning struck down from the sky, and the saber chi stirred up bolts of lightning as it charged at Ling Xiao. It was so dazzling that it was difficult to discern the situation. Boom! The lightning bolts exploded, and the saber chi collapsed. Ling Xiao, who was dressed in snow-white clothes, still stood firmly in place. His sword only moved slightly, and all of Ko Xialing's attacks suddenly turned into nothingness and were completely shattered. What? Ko Xialing was clearly stunned. He knew that Ling Xiao was very strong, but he still did not expect that his move would not be able to injure Ling Xiao in the slightest. This made him feel a little depressed. Again, lightning flash movie. Ko Xialing roared. He suddenly jumped up and chopped down with his saber. In the sky, countless lightning bolts struck down, and the movie flickered. Under the illumination of the lights, it looked particularly beautiful, but also terrifying. There was no room to dodge this saber. It almost completely enveloped Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao still only waved his sword indifferently. The sword intent broke through the sky as if it was real, and directly destroyed the terrifying lightning flash movie. Ling Xiao did not take the initiative to attack Ko Xialing. Otherwise, once he stabbed out with his sword, Ko Xialing would probably be very flustered. "Brother Ko, your attack can't hurt me at all. It's better if you use your full strength. Otherwise, your next move will determine the outcome." Ling Xiao glanced at Ko Xialing indifferently. Although his words were unpleasant, they were proof of his great strength. Ko Xialing took a deep breath. Suddenly he laughed. He was 19 years old this year, and his cultivation had reached the peak of Yin-Yang Realm Level 8. He thought that his talent was unrivaled in the world. However, today he met a freak. This person's cultivation was clearly lower than his, but he could make him go crazy. He was not angry. He just felt a little helpless and a little disappointed. "All right, since you asked for it, I'll use my strongest move. The outcome will be decided here." Ko Xialing gritted his teeth and waved the saber in his hand. Terrifying yin-yang origin energy was released from his body, and it turned into shocking electric currents in the air. Then, the phantom of a monster bathed in lightning appeared behind him. This monster was not big, or rather, it was very small. It was only about a foot long, but no one dared to underestimate it. Lightning Martin, martial spirit? Ling Xiao was stunned. It was said that in ancient times one of the 12 immortals was good at controlling beasts. His best treasure was the Lightning Martin. It was a kind of monster that was very fast and could control lightning. Ko Xialing's martial spirit looked obedient, but in fact it was very powerful. Under Ling Xiao's strong pressure, Ko Xialing finally summoned his martial spirit, which he had not used all this time. That guy favors one and discriminates against the other. He didn't use his martial spirit to deal with me, but he used his martial spirit to deal with Ling Xiao? Jun Macho said unhappily. Sun Lingchan said with a smile. He knows that he is not your match, and you deliberately did not reveal your strength. Instead, you played with him. Why did he use his full strength? I'm afraid this is the difference between respect and disrespect between martial artists. Humph! You know that if I want to defeat this Ko Xialing, I don't need one move to solve the problem. Jun Macho said proudly. Chapter 1748. The reason why Jun Macho fought with Ko Xialing for such a long time was because she did not want to expose her strength. After all, she still had to face the stronger Fan Rolin. She did not want to expose all her cards. But now, facing Ling Xiao on the battlefield, Ko Xialing had to use all his strength. He even used his martial spirit. Ko Xialing was really helpless. Before he fought with Ling Xiao, he thought that he would be able to win this battle. But once they fought, he understood that his opponent had completely controlled the battle from the beginning. Every sword move of his opponent seemed simple and direct, as if it was a casual attack. But it was this casual attack that was even more frightening. A casual attack could accurately grasp his flaw and crush his attack. Moreover, it was obvious that his opponent had the opportunity to pursue him. His opponent did not pursue him. He probably just wanted to see what his strongest strength was. Thinking of this, Ko Xiling could not help but feel a little sad. He could be considered a genius of his generation, but he had encountered such a freak. It was like a cunning fox meeting a natural hunter. No matter how cunning he was completely restrained. He had never felt this way, even when facing Jun Macho. But in front of Ling Xiao, it was so clear. It was really not a good feeling. Therefore, after 2 moves, he did not hesitate to use his martial spirit, because it was his only trump card that could turn defeat into victory. With the appearance of the Lightning Marten martial spirit, the power of each of Ko Xiling's moves increased substantially. The whole arena was filled with the illusion of the Lightning Marten. Under the bombardment of the terrifying lightning sword Qi, the entire arena was constantly emitting explosive sounds, like a violent storm. Not bad. Facing Ko Xiling's attack, Ling Xiao actually smiled slightly, and then slowly raised the long sword in his hand. In that instant, his body seemed to turn into a luminous body, emitting a blazing and dazzling light. The warriors in the audience closed their eyes because of this, temporarily losing their vision. Ko Xiling did not dare to close his eyes, because he knew that once he closed his eyes, he would probably lose. He squinted his eyes and vaguely saw a huge golden crow form in front of Ling Xiao. It was the golden crow formed by the sword Qi, swift and fierce and terrifying. Golden crow, rising sun. The sword Qi finally burst out. The lightning minx, welcome on the arena, was swept away. The terrifying golden crows covered the entire battle ring. Ko Xiling had no choice but to repeatedly retreat, frequently dodging, and then he used his lightning sable martial spirit to protect himself. Even so, the terrifying heat of the golden crow still burned many parts of his body. That piercing pain made him frightened and incredulous. How can he be so strong? How could such a casual sword strike completely suppress me? How much strength is this guy hiding? By this time, Ko Xiling no longer had the courage to continue fighting. His opponent was too strong. Even if he summoned his martial spirit, he would not be able to win. Under such circumstances, it would be foolish of him to continue fighting. I lost. Ko Xiling smiled wryly and shook his head. Although his opponent had only used this one move, he had already felt proud of his own shortcomings. The people in the audience were not at all surprised by his admission of defeat, because Ling Xiao was too strong. Ko Xiling's attack did not have any effect on him, while his attack completely crushed Ko Xiling. They were simply on 2 different levels of martial artists. They could not be mentioned in the same breath. You can clearly see your own strength. This is much stronger than some people. Your talent is very good. Don't be discouraged. After all, I really can't think of anyone with better talent than me. Ling Xiao's words were a little arrogant, but that was the truth. His talent was definitely one of the best in the entire mystic world, not to mention in this insignificant White Tiger continent. Ko Xiling smiled bitterly. Others might think that Ling Xiao was blowing his own trumpet, but he felt that this guy was telling the truth. One must know that when fighting with opponents with weaker cultivation than him, Ko Xiling had always solved the problem with 1 slash, but this time he had lost completely. He did not even have the chance to counterattack. In the VIP room, Fan Roland's hands gripped the teacup tightly. He did not realize that the teacup had been crushed. His shocked eyes were fixed on Ling Xiao in the arena. This guy. He felt that he might have underestimated this guy. In the other VIP room, Jun Macho's breathing was also rapid. He was obviously excited. Good boy. Such a strong opponent. My trip to the Tian High Empire was not in vain, Jun Macho said excitedly. At this time, everyone in the audience was stunned. This scene made them speechless. Ko Xiling, whom everyone had high hopes for, was unexpectedly defeated so easily by Ling Xiao's hands. Was this Ling Xiao really a 17-year-old youngster? It was hard to understand. It was inconceivable. After Ko Xiling admitted defeat, he cupped his hands and said, "Sir, how much of your strength did you use in that sword strike?" He had always wanted to ask this question, because he felt an aura more terrifying than Jun Macho's from Ling Xiao. This was something that others could not give him. This person exuded a kind of horror that could destroy everything. It made people tremble and feel at a loss. I can only tell you that that was not my full strength. As for my full strength, you will definitely see it later. Ling Xiao glanced at Ko Xiling and said with a smile, "I see. I understand." It was obvious that in Ko Xiling's opinion, Ling Xiao was giving him face. This was because, if he really had to answer, it might be a huge blow to Ko Xiling's confidence. After the battle ended, Ling Xiao was given 10 minutes to rest. He was arranged to rest in a separate VIP room. After drinking the recovery medicinal wine, Ling Xiao directly ate the medium-grade spirit stones in big mouthfuls. At the same time, he was also absorbing the remaining energy of the ice-fire grass in the immortal pot. He actually wanted to try to break through during the battle. This was because his next opponent was Jun Macho, one of the 7 sons of Jinyi School. In Ling Xiao's opinion, Jun Macho's strength was on par with water gods. If he did not advance to the 7th level of Yin-Yang realm, it would be difficult for him to be Jun Macho's opponent. Therefore, the breakthrough this time was necessary. Fortunately, his cultivation had already broken through to the peak of the 6th level of Yin-Yang realm. Coupled with the large amount of medium-grade spirit stones he won this time and the remaining energy of the ice-fire grass in the immortal pot, there was a breakthrough. It should not be a problem for him to break through. However, when he was resting this time, there was a small interlude in the arena. Jun Macho seemed to have comprehended something after watching the battle between Ling Xiao and Ko Xiling, and his battle intent was high. He actually chose to challenge Fan Rolin on the 70th floor because Ko Xiling did not challenge him for a long time. Therefore, Fan Rolin was defeated by Jun Macho. He fell to the 69th floor. Jun Macho became the champion of the 70th floor. Fan Rolin had a belly full of anger, and his eyes were fixed on the VIP room where Ling Xiao was. Chapter 1749. 10 minutes later, Fan Rolin was extremely angry. "Ling Xiao, get the hell out here!" He actually roared. He couldn't beat Jun Macho, so he vented his anger on Ling Xiao. "Third young master, you should recover your strength first. He has at most 20 minutes to come out, or else he'll forfeit." Seeing Fan Rolin so angry, the Hell Tower administrator felt helpless and hurriedly advised him. Fan Rolin clenched his teeth. He really did need to recover. Otherwise, if he lost to Ling Xiao because of his lack of strength, that would be even more unsightly. Thinking of this, he calmed down. Another 10 minutes passed. Suddenly, a loud sound came from Ling Xiao's VIP room. Then, the entire VIP room exploded. Ling Xiao slowly walked out and stepped onto the 69th floor of the Hell Tower. He indifferently looked at Fan Rolin, who had already recovered to his peak state, and coldly said, "Just now, you told me to get the hell out here?" "Correct. So what?" Fan Rolin didn't think that Ling Xiao would dare to question him. He was simply too daring. "So what?" Fan family's eldest young master Fan Rohai is refined and courteous, but you, the third young master, lack discipline. Today, I'll properly discipline you on behalf of your family. When these words came out, the entire audience was deathly silent, because no one thought that Ling Xiao would dare to say such words to Fan Rolin. His guts were really big. Ha ha ha. In the VIP room, Sun Lingchan and Jun Macho couldn't help but laugh. This Ling Xiao really didn't take Fan Rolin seriously. Fan Rolin was so angry that his face turned red. But after a short moment, he finally took a deep breath and looked at Ling Xiao. "Good kid, you're the first person who dares to speak to me like that. Even Heavenly Sea Tyranny doesn't dare to be so impudent." "Then I'm very honored." Ling Xiao lightly laughed. Looking at your mischievous smile, this young master is very angry. Today, this young master must teach you how to behave in this Sky Sea City. Fan Rolin said coldly, if that's all you've shown, then you should admit defeat. Otherwise, you won't be able to put on such an arrogant expression later. At that time, you will be like a wretched dog. His cultivation base was stronger than Ko Xilin's. He had already reached the peak of Yin Yang Realm 9th tier, and could even fight against a Yin Yang Realm 10th tier martial artist. On top of that, their Fan family's martial art was much more formidable than Ko Xilin's. Therefore, in his opinion, by relying on the advantages of cultivation and martial arts, coupled with the powerful martial souls of the Fan family, they would be able to defeat the Fan family. Not to mention defeating him. Even killing this Ling Xiao should be a piece of cake. You talk too much nonsense. Make your move. Let me see exactly how you're going to turn me into a miserable dog. Ling Xiao looked at Fan Rolin indifferently. He did not understand Fan Rolin's fighting style, so he planned to let his opponent make the first move. Then he would use his Tai Chi eye to seize the opportunity to defeat his opponent. To him, gaining the upper hand after striking was a good fighting style. All right, then take my demonic repelling sword. Fan Rolin raised his hand, and a treasured sword from the weapon rack fell into his hand. Then he took a step forward and shook the treasured sword in his hand. Sword Qi wreaked havoc, and the space seemed to be cut into pieces by the sword Qi. At that moment, many people were hallucinating. They could not see where the sword Qi came from. They could only see countless demonic shadows attacking. How can we fight like this? It's impossible to tell what's real and what's fake. My mind is filled with demonic shadows. If I really go up against Third Young Master Fan, I'll be dead for sure. Third Young Master Fan is best at incorporating soul secret techniques into his sword technique. The most terrifying thing about this demonic repelling sword is that it can affect the opponent's mind. Even Jun Macho suffered a little from it. Ordinary martial artists can't gain any advantage against him. They might not even be able to unleash their full strength. Not everyone in the audience was mediocre. They could also see how powerful Fan Rolin was. What a boring sword technique. Ling Xiao shook his head lightly. Excluding the influence of soul power, Fan Rolin's sword was not even as powerful as Ko Xilin's attack. Was Ling Xiao the kind of person who would be affected by his opponent's soul secret technique? Fan Rolin's cultivation was higher than his, but the difference in soul power was too great. They were not on the same level at all. After saying that, Ling Xiao stabbed out with his sword. The sword was not very powerful, and the scene was not shocking, but it happened to pierce the weakest part of the demonic repelling sword. The demonic repelling sword was instantly broken. What? Fan Rolin was shocked. This move was actually not his strongest move. He had only used it to test Ling Xiao's strength, but this test was too surprising. His opponent did not fall for it at all. His soul secret technique was completely useless. But my ability is not limited to soul secret techniques. I've already used my true killing move. After frowning, Fan Rolin suddenly revealed a sinister smile. As he laughed sinisterly, he actually retreated to his original position, as if he was no longer attacking. Ling Xiao did not care about what Feng Xingjian was thinking. He merely pressed forward, thrusting out his long sword incessantly. He only used the simplest moves, not even using the light and shadow profoundness. He only used the powers of the 600 Royal Heaven Empress Earth to fight against Feng Xingjian. He did not immediately use his killing move because he was worried that Fan Rolin might have other trump cards. After all, Fan Rolin had not released his martial soul when the battle started. What was the Fan family's martial soul? The outside world kept it a secret. This was a very strange thing. After all, the Fan family was a large family. Someone must have seen the Fan family's martial soul. Why did no one know? Ling Xiao had been thinking about this question. So when he attacked, he did his best to hold back and did not use his killing move completely. In a short while, the two had exchanged several blows. Buzz! Suddenly, Ling Xiao heard a strange sound. This sound was like the sound of zither strings. Many people would probably find it strange after hearing it, but they would not take it seriously. After all, this was the Hell Pagoda. There were so many people in the audience seats. It was not possible to take it seriously if someone made a sound out of boredom. But this was where the problem usually came from. Ling Xiao would not let go of any strange things, but he could not pinpoint where this sound came from. So, at the crucial moment, he swapped his body with his Gemini martial soul. Although such a swap could be done at any time, it would consume a large amount of inner strength every time. So, unless he had no choice, Ling Xiao would not do this. He made such a decision because he could not figure out Fan Roland's characteristics. Anyway, he had plenty of pills to recover inner strength. Just as he swapped bodies, a voice rang out. His Gemini martial soul exploded and turned into fragments that scattered on the ground. Chapter 1750. The scene of Ling Xiao's body shattering made everyone tremble in fear, and they were all dumbfounded. Ha 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 ha, idiot. I told you that you wouldn't survive if you met me. Fan Roland couldn't help but laugh when he saw Ling Xiao die. He seemed to be in a good mood. Interesting. Your Fan family's martial soul is actually a musical instrument. That's a rare martial soul. Ling Xiao had seen a musical instrument martial soul before when he was in Yuehua school. However, the martial soul he saw at that time couldn't unleash its full power because the martial artist was too weak. Unlike now, Fan Roland's martial soul could release a terrifying sound wave that was enough to kill enemies. It was impossible to guard against. Hearing Ling Xiao's voice, Fan Roland's face became extremely funny. As if he had seen a ghost, he suddenly turned around and looked at Ling Xiao, who was standing there unharmed. Are you a human or a ghost? Nonsense. Of course I'm human. I've always been puzzled. How could a big family like your Fan family not have a martial spirit known to outsiders? Now it seems like it's really easy to hide such a martial spirit. Unfortunately, you can't hide it from my eyes. Only Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye could see through the surface and see the essence. Only then could he see what Fan Roland's real killing move was. Well, since you've seen through it, I don't need to hide it anymore. As Fan Roland spoke, the shadow of a guzheng appeared behind him. The guzheng was antique and looked quite beautiful. It was covered with special patterns, as if a soul was residing in it. It was really magical. Guzheng Demon Strike. The moment he showed his martial soul, terrifying music came at the same time. This time, Fan Roland soared into the air. Following the release of the music, the entire arena exploded with a loud bang. Although it wasn't completely destroyed because of the special material of the arena, it was full of holes and was beyond recognition. Change the arena, the host shouted, and a brand new ring was brought up. Both of them are terrifying. No matter who it is, we are no match for them. That's right. It's simply a battle of wits and strength. Both of them are too strange. If it were us, we probably wouldn't survive a single round, right? A meeting? I don't think I can even last half a round. Youngsters nowadays are really too frightening. I reckon that there will be even more jaw-dropping battles in this White Tiger Store meet. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Yeah, and this is just third Master Fan. I wonder how strong the 4 heroes of Tianhai are. Everyone was excited. From the beginning, they were completely hostile to Ling Xiao, but now they actually felt some admiration for Ling Xiao. After all, the profound world was a place where strength mattered. Whoever was stronger would have more authority. Ling Xiao's ability was truly admirable. Naturally, they wouldn't be completely one-sided in their insults. Living in this era, they were able to witness a battle between geniuses. In fact, their lives weren't in vain. The great waves washed away the sand, and it was hard to say how many of these so-called geniuses would truly survive and perform miracles. The arena was changed, and it was a better one at that. It was full of array patterns, clearly designed to deal with the powerful attacks of these two. Ling Xiao gradually saw through Fan Roland's path. Wisps of black chi began to emerge from the long sword in his hand. At this moment, he didn't plan on wasting any more time. Fan Roland could clearly feel the battle intent and killing intent that filled Ling Xiao's entire body. He also wanted to fight his most beautiful battle. If he could eliminate Ling Xiao in this battle, he would rise to a new level. He might even be able to defeat Jun Macho. However, if he lost, he would not only become a laughingstock, but he would also be dispirited for a long time. It might even affect the battle at the White Tiger Store meet. Ling Xiao, come, use your strongest move. In this battle, I will make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly. Fan Roland roared loudly. Ling Xiao couldn't help but laugh inwardly. With Fan Roland's strength, he really wasn't qualified to make him use his full strength. Not to mention Fan Roland. Even Jun Macho wasn't worthy of him using his full strength. The sword in Ling Xiao's hand was condensing a terrifying black energy. Behind him was the pitch-black curtain of night. A dark, demonic sword hung above his head. Then he actually threw away the long sword in his hand and directly grabbed the dark, demonic sword, looking at Fan Roland. Using the dark, demonic sword to deal with Fan Roland was really a bit of a waste. However, it was necessary to hone one's battle skills in such a battle, so Ling Xiao still wanted to use it. Moreover, the dark, demonic sword had different powers to deal with Fan Roland in front of him. The first move of the demonic world destruction art could solve the problem. When the dark, demonic sword appeared, the entire arena suddenly became eerie and terrifying, as if some demonic creature had descended. Ling Xiao was stunned, because he could clearly feel that something in the Hell Pagoda was calling out to him. This energy was very similar to the primordial divine demon, but there were some differences. However, it was definitely pure dark energy, the esoteric shadow. Forget it, don't think so much. After the battle in front of me, I'll think about other things. Ling Xiao shook his head and looked at Fan Roland again. At this moment, Fan Roland was floating in midair, and there was a guzheng in his hand. If one looked closely, they would realize that the guzheng wasn't real, but was formed by his martial soul. Slaughter's Symphony, play. As Fan Roland's voice rang out, a somber melody was released from the guzheng, which gradually filled the entire arena. One could vaguely feel as if there were thousands of soldiers and horses fighting, which made one's heart tremble with fear. Dark demonic sword, body destruction. The dark demonic sword in Ling Xiao's hand had already stabbed out. Terrifying black sword chi spewed out of the dark demonic sword like a fountain, with his body as the center, rapidly spreading in all directions. The entire 69th floor was almost completely filled with that black sword chi. Chi, 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 chi. Fan Roland's figure flashed, constantly dodging Ling Xiao's attacks, and at the same time urging the symphony. At this moment, he was already battered and exhausted, and the clothes on his body were already in tatters, and they were already stained with blood. He looked very miserable. However, his face revealed the smile of a victor. Explode! Slaughter's Symphony. In that instant, all the musical notes on the arena exploded at the same time, and the arena instantly turned into a terrifying battlefield. People could even see thousands of soldiers and horses charging toward Ling Xiao, wanting to tear Ling Xiao to pieces. It's useless. Your strength is too weak. Ling Xiao was still standing there, and the dark demonic sword in his hand suddenly danced. The sword chi that was originally released all gathered together in an instant, forming a huge black sword. Chapter 1751. The shadow of the black sword was dozens of meters long and several meters wide. It slashed towards Fan Roland. Ah! Fan Roland cried out in anger, waving the zither in his hand to block. Pucci! Blood spurted out like a fountain. The ground in front of Fan Roland was completely dyed red. Ling Xiao looked at this scene indifferently and put away the dark demon sword. Fan Roland was kneeling on the ground, his entire body trembling. His clothes were completely soaked in blood. He looked at the youth in front of him in fear. If the other party hadn't stopped at the last moment, he would have died a miserable death. He thought he was a genius, that he was the only existence in the Fan family. But when he met Ling Xiao, he suddenly realized that he was just a frog at the bottom of a well. Too pitiful. Even third young master Fan lost to him. What's going on? In the VIP room, the administrator of the Hell Tower looked out the window in shock. This scene was hard for him to accept. This child's cultivation isn't too high, but his battle strength is astonishing. His fists are domineering, and his swordsmanship is strange and unpredictable. Third young master, losing to him is nothing. Fan Ruohai smiled. On the contrary, I think that if third young master can learn from this lesson and cultivate steadily instead of looking down on everything, he might improve even more. But eldest young master, he's already reached the 69th floor. Are you really going to let him become the champion of the 70th floor? The administrator asked. What's wrong with that? The Hell Tower has always relied on one's own ability. If he has that ability, even if he becomes the champion of the 100th floor, so what? Fan Ruohai smiled. But, young master, that secret map is extremely precious. It relates to the secret of the underground world. The administrator reminded. If he can really decipher that map, his strength will increase crazily. Yes, but you said it yourself. After so many years, Heavenly Sea Tyranny and this young master have never been able to decipher that map. Moreover, the two of us are the two great families of the Heavenly Sea Empire working together to decipher it. Do you think he can do it? Fan Ruohai smiled, not minding it at all. Young master, you're right. My worries were groundless. Even though the fighters after the 70th floor aren't as terrifying as Heavenly Ocean's four greats, they're still quite strong. The most frightening floor is still the 99th floor, where the sealed Hell Lord is. Even Heavenly Ocean Tyranny was almost killed by that guy, but in the end he relied on his wits to get through. This Ling Xiao definitely won't pass. The administrator thought for a moment and finally calmed down. The so-called Lords of Hell were said to have been born together with the Hellish Tower. They came from the cracks in space. It was hard to tell what kind of creature it was. However, this demonic being had killed quite a number of super genius martial artists who had reached the 99th level over the years. Those martial artists all became his nourishment. In another VIP room, Sun Lingchan couldn't help but let out a long sigh and said, Jun Macho, oh Jun Macho, I actually hope that you can stop him. If he can even defeat you, then I'm really worried that if he is given more time, then I'm afraid that no genius in the entire White Tiger continent can stop him. Is his talent really that terrifying? Hua Hua asked in confusion. You're right, Fairy Lingchan. Jun Macho was the one who answered Hua Hua. She stood up slowly with determination in her eyes. That's why I have to defeat him. The White Tiger continent belongs to Jingyi School. We can't let an outsider dominate. Can you stop him? Sun Lingchan asked. I have to stop him even if I can't. Jun Macho didn't dare to underestimate Ling Xiao anymore. She knew Fan Roland's strength very well. He was at the peak of Yin-Yang Realm level 9 and possessed an extremely strange martial soul. Although she had defeated her opponent, it was definitely not easy. However, looking at Ling Xiao, it seemed that he had defeated Fan Roland so easily. This made her feel very uncomfortable. Right now, she wanted to personally experience Ling Xiao's strength. She wanted to stop him with her mid-stage Yin-Yang Realm cultivation. Jun Macho took a deep breath and stepped onto the arena on the 70th level. However, Ling Xiao was already waiting for him there. Don't you need to rest for a while? Jun Macho asked curiously. No need. I didn't consume much energy. Ling Xiao wasn't being arrogant. He indeed didn't consume much energy after defeating Fan Roland. He knew that Jun Macho was a truly difficult opponent to deal with. However, he could still win even if she was difficult to deal with. Jun Macho wasn't called Fairy Macho for nothing. Her appearance was also very outstanding. She was almost on par with Sun Lingchan. This wasn't strange. In the mystic world, the more powerful a martial artist was, the more perfect their appearance was. This was because, after practicing martial arts, one's body would be strengthened and transformed continuously. This could make one's figure and appearance even more perfect. Even an old woman in her 60s or 70s could be as pretty as an 18 or 19-year-old girl. All right, in that case, I won't hold back. June Macho didn't plan to talk nonsense with Ling Xiao. She planned to strike first. The moment she spoke, her body flashed, and a light, long sword flew into her hand from the weapon rack. Then, she stabbed it toward Ling Xiao at lightning speed. The sword was a flexible sword. This made Ling Xiao feel nostalgic, because he had also used a flexible sword before. A martial artist who dared to use such a sword was extremely confident in their control of their moves. June Macho's goal was simple. She wanted to get close to Ling Xiao and gain the upper hand. She didn't want to give Ling Xiao a chance to counterattack. She believed that Ling Xiao's strength lay in his terrifying attack power. If a martial artist's attack power was strong, his defense would naturally be weak. Therefore, if she wanted to defeat Ling Xiao, she couldn't let him make a move. She wasn't the only one who thought this. In fact, everyone in the audience thought the same. Because from the first floor to the 69th floor, Ling Xiao hadn't suffered the slightest injury. Even his clothes were clean. He seemed to be afraid of something and didn't dare to take his opponent's attack head-on. This also gave many people the illusion that Ling Xiao's defense was definitely weak. In the VIP room, Fan Roland gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, why didn't I think of this? That guy chose to use a strange doppelganger to dodge my musical note attack. It must be because his defense isn't strong enough." Until now, he still couldn't accept his loss. He felt that he had been played by Ling Xiao. Is that really the case? Fan Ruohai chuckled. "Third brother, watch carefully. He will tell you how his defense is soon." Facing June Macho's sudden attack, Ling Xiao couldn't help but be stunned. Then he laughed. Originally, he was still thinking about how to draw his opponent over and then defeat him in the simplest and most direct way. After all, dragging it out wouldn't do him any good. He didn't expect his opponent to walk right into his trap. He had no intention of blocking this sword at all. Chapter 1752. When June Macho's sword was less than 2 or 3 meters away from Ling Xiao's body, a layer of white bone armor suddenly appeared on his body, making him look like a demon stepping out of hell. And it wasn't over yet. Outside the white bone armor, a layer of red sun feather coat emitting a blazing light completely wrapped around him. June Macho's sword quickly melted as soon as it entered the range of the blazing light. After all, it wasn't a magic weapon. Although the material was good, it still couldn't resist Ling Xiao's terrifying red sun feather coat. However, June Macho seemed to have been prepared for this. At the same time that his right hand stabbed down, a dagger that he had prepared beforehand suddenly shot out from his left sleeve. This broken sword was also on the weapon rack, but June Macho had already hidden it in her sleeve. I spike. The short sword was wrapped in a strange layer of ice. It avoided the melting of the high temperature and directly pierced the white bone armor. June Macho sensed something was wrong with this stab. This isn't an ordinary armor. You cheated by using a magic weapon. A magic weapon? I didn't expect the 7 disciples of the Jingyi school to be so ignorant. Ling Xiao's cold voice sounded. This was the moment he had been waiting for. June Macho had just finished her attack and was very close to him. Ling Xiao roared and directly punched June Macho, who was only a few feet away from him. June Macho wasn't an ordinary person. She was able to think of a way to deal with such a dangerous situation. As she retreated, she stepped on the ground of the arena. Then the ground turned into stone slabs, blocking Ling Xiao's attack. However, at this time, June Macho was overconfident again. She didn't choose to take advantage of the situation to retreat. Instead, she summoned another sword from the weapon rack and stabbed through the stone slabs. Puff! The stone slabs were pierced through by the long sword in her hand, which contained an astonishing amount of yuan qi, as if they were made of tofu. However, she had already lost the best opportunity to dodge. Ling Xiao's fists came crashing down. The terrifying power of the 600 Emperor Earth Empress combined with the terrifying power of the body of hell. Even the sword in Jun Macho's hand was shattered once again. Jun Macho no longer had a chance. She had made a mistake, so she was destined to be caught by Ling Xiao and be unable to fight back. The two terrifying fists landed heavily on Jun Macho's chest. Jun Macho felt a terrifying force throw her far away. However, what annoyed her the most was Ling Xiao. Wasn't it because she was a woman? Of all the places to attack, he actually chose that place that couldn't be attacked the most. It really pissed her off. Jun Macho was blasted back dozens of meters, but she eventually stopped and somersaulted a few times in the air in an attempt to counterattack Ling Xiao. This was her strong point, which was something that Fan Rolin and Ko Xiling could not compare to. Unfortunately, she couldn't see any trace of the enemy. By the time she reacted, a sword was already at her neck. Defeated, he had lost so easily. Jun Macho didn't even have time to display his full strength. She felt that she had lost miserably. I don't accept this. Jun Macho stared at Ling Xiao and shouted, "This is the arena. If it were a Jianghu vendetta, there would be no need for you to accept this, because you would already be dead." Ling Xiao said coldly, "Admit defeat. Otherwise, my sword won't show any mercy." Feeling the terrifying aura emitted from Ling Xiao's cold eyes, Ling Xiao's expression changed drastically. She also felt the pain of being cut by the sword on her neck. Although Jun Macho felt extremely sullen, she still admitted defeat in the end. "I won't make the same mistake at the White Tiger gathering." Jun Macho felt that the sword on his neck had been removed. He stood up straight and said, "Do you know what mistake you made?" Ling Xiao asked, "Underestimating the enemy." Jun Macho said, "It wasn't underestimating the enemy, but overconfidence. You made a series of mistakes. You thought my defense was weak. That was the first mistake. When you had the chance to avoid my killing move, you chose to counterattack. That was the second mistake. And the root of the mistake was that you were overconfident and didn't analyze the opponent." Ling Xiao shook his head and continued, "Actually, if you hadn't launched a sneak attack and had chosen to fight me head-on, I might not have been able to defeat you so quickly." Jun Macho was stunned for a moment. Although she wasn't convinced, she had to admit that Ling Xiao was right. This time, it was because she wanted to take advantage of Ling Xiao's weak defense that she suddenly launched an attack and fell into the opponent's trap. In reality, she hadn't even used half of her strength. This was the reason why she was so cowardly. See, third brother? His defense isn't weak. If you had followed Jun Macho's example, you would have lost even more miserably. Fan Ruohai glanced at the pale-faced Fan Rolin and said indifferently, "Jianghu produces talented people in every generation. The outside world is very big. Don't be a frog at the bottom of a well. Go see the world at this White Tiger gathering. It doesn't matter if you don't get a ranking. Only by seeing the strength of the world can you cultivate even harder." Fan Rolin clenched his teeth and didn't say anything. Eldest young master. Almost none of the arena masters are stronger than Ling Xiao. I think Ling Xiao can easily reach the 99th floor. The only one who can truly stop him is the Archdevil of Bator. The Hell Tower administrator seemed to be trying to ease the awkward atmosphere in the VIP room. Yes, in order to incite the warriors' enthusiasm, the arena masters of the Hell Tower are usually below the peak of the 10th level of the Yin Yang realm. The 99th floor is an exception. Fan Ruohai nodded and said, "Go and inform Ling Xiao to stop when he reaches the 98th floor. The Lord of Hell is too strong. He's definitely not a match for him." "Big brother, why should we help him?" Fan Rolin said unhappily. "He spared your life. Shouldn't you return the favor?" Fan Ruahai glared at Fan Roland. Although he looked calm, Fan Roland was so scared that he didn't dare to speak. "I'll go now." The Hell Tower administrator left the VIP room and told Ling Xiao about this matter. However, when he returned, he brought back a piece of news that made Fan Ruahai not know whether to laugh or cry. Ling Xiao said that he has to go to the 100th floor. He's grateful for our good intentions, but he's not afraid of the Lord of Hell. He's still too young. Fan Ruahai shook his head helplessly and sighed. "Wanchuang, let's go. I can't bear to see a genius get killed by the Lord of Hell." He really cherished Ling Xiao's talent. "Yes, master." Mu Wanchuang also stood up and left with Fan Ruahai. Ling Xiao, who successfully became the arena master of the 70th floor, not only received a large amount of spiritual stones as a reward, but he also received 1,000-year scarlet sun fruit. Chapter 1753. Ling Xiao ate the crimson sun fruit on the spot. The 1,000-year-old crimson sun fruit was very expensive outside. Sometimes one couldn't even buy it. However, he ate it so easily. Boom! The effect of the crimson sun fruit was completely absorbed within 10 minutes. Ling Xiao's cultivation had increased from the early stage of the 7th level of the Yin-Yang realm to the middle stage of the 7th level of the Yin-Yang realm. He was very impressed with his wise decision to come to the Hell Tower. It allowed his cultivation to break through time and time again. It was really worth it. Moreover, it seemed like there was something that he was more interested in on the 99th floor. The Hell Overlord? He didn't care what it was. He had to get it at all costs. After Ling Xiao's cultivation had broken through, he continued to challenge others. It was still very easy for him to go from the 70th floor to the 80th floor. Just like what the Hell Tower administrator said, no one could block his attacks. Although he couldn't defeat his opponent in one move, he could defeat them in 5 to 6 moves. This was an eye-opener for the audience. His attacks were strange and unpredictable. The same move could be executed in thousands of different ways. It was impossible to guard against it. Many people even exclaimed, "It can be done like that!" I never thought about it. This guy is indeed a genius. It's really worth it to come to the Hell Tower to watch this competition. From Ling Xiao's battles, they had discovered many new battle techniques. However, these people were happy too early. After the actual test, they would realize that other than Ling Xiao, no one else could execute those strange attacks. Ling Xiao's speed, soul power, physical body, inner strength, Tai Chi eye, and various strange martial souls allowed him to do things that others couldn't. Of course, these weren't what Ling Xiao cared about. After he received the spiritual stones and the 1,500-year-old crimson sun fruit, he ate them and cultivated as usual. He didn't break through this time, but there were signs of it. Next, he fought from the 80th floor to the 90th floor. Originally, everyone thought that Ling Xiao would have an exciting battle with the current arena champion, Sun Lingchan, on the 90th floor. However, what shocked them was that Sun Lingchan actually chose to admit defeat. Ling Xiao didn't know what Sun Lingchan was thinking, but he knew that he was definitely not Sun Lingchan's opponent now. Sun Lingchan's surrender was equivalent to opening up a path to the 99th floor for him. Sun Lingchan's reason was simple. She wanted to see if Ling Xiao could survive the Hell Lord's attack and catch up to Tyranny Heavenly Ocean's record. Sun Lingchan had a number of people. Ling Xiao had obtained a 1,800-year-old crimson sun fruit on the 90th floor. After consuming it, his cultivation base finally broke through again and reached the middle stage of the 7th level of the Yin-Yang stage. He continued on until he reached the 99th level, where he met an archdevil. There was no audience on this floor. This was because the Hell Lord's attacks would never avoid the spectators. There had been cases where the spectators had all been killed by the Hell Lord. Hence, from then on, the 99th floor no longer had spectator seats. However, the audience could still watch the battle through a special array. It's just that it's not as exciting as live. Originally, everyone had been looking forward to this battle. However, what they found hard to accept was that as soon as the battle began, All the crystal screens turned pitch black, as if they were blocked by some special energy. Before the crystal screens turned black, they only saw the Hell Lord's enormous and terrifying body twisting as it charged towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao stood there motionlessly. He's going to die, right? Lord Macho glanced at Sun Lingchan and said, "You should have stopped him on the 90th floor." I didn't want to expose my strength either. Sun Lingchan shook her head and said, "Besides, he might not necessarily die." For some reason, Sun Lingchan had a special kind of expectation towards Ling Xiao, as if Ling Xiao would definitely bring her a pleasant surprise. What kind of joke is this? That Hell Lord's strength is close to the 15th level of the Yin-Yang stage. Even Tyranny Heavenly Ocean isn't its opponent. They can only use some tricks and the Tianhai family's secret technique to trick the Hell Lord. Lord Macho didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What are you thinking? You actually think he can win? The image is back. Just as Sun Lingchan was about to reply, the image on the crystal screen returned to normal. Ling Xiao still looked very clean. His clothes were as white as snow, and his black hair danced in the wind. There was no trace of injury at all. Where's the Hell Lord? Everyone discovered that the Hell Lord on the 99th floor had actually disappeared. Hurry up and find someone to investigate. The administrator of Hell Tower was very anxious. The Hell Lord was the key to Hell Tower survival. Moreover, it was an important fighting force of the Fan family. Now that it had suddenly disappeared, he couldn't bear the responsibility. However, there was only Ling Xiao on the 99th floor. It was as if the Hell Lord had never appeared. There wasn't even a trace of its aura. Young Hero Ling, where's the Hell Lord? The administrator directly questioned Ling Xiao. I don't know. Just now, I only saw a strange crack in space, and the Hell Lord was sucked in. Ling Xiao shook his head. A spatial crack. I didn't expect a spatial crack to appear here. The administrator couldn't help but shake his head with a bitter smile. When the Hell Lord had first appeared, such a thing had appeared at the same time. This time, the Hell Lord had disappeared as well. This Ling Xiao's luck was really good. Then I must congratulate you, young Hero Ling, the champion of the 100th floor, tyrannical heavenly ocean. Definitely isn't here, so you can win without fighting. The map of the underground world is yours. The administrator looked at Ling Xiao. He really didn't know what to say. This martial artist from the Dragon Phoenix continent was really lucky. Sun Lingchan admitted defeat, and the Hell Lord disappeared. The two biggest hurdles had mysteriously passed. Even so, a win was a win. Ling Xiao had reached the 100th floor of Hell Tower and obtained the highest level VIP token of the Fan family. In the future, as long as it was a business of the Fan family, he would be able to enjoy the greatest discounts. Of course, the rewards of the underground world were not small. There was also the map of the underground world. That was the true reason he had come here. Apart from these substantial rewards, there was also a glory that others envied. It was said that every martial artist who reached the 100th floor would be able to obtain a statue of their own in the underground world. Moreover, this statue would be protected by the Fan family. However, Ling Xiao didn't care about this kind of glory. After getting the map of the secret realm, he got rid of many people and quickly left the underground world, returning to the Tower of Heroes. Now that he had the materials for the fledgling dragon pill and the map of the underground world, it was time to focus on increasing his cultivation. He put the map of the underground world aside and focused on refining the fledgling dragon pill. Chapter 1754. When Ling Xiao was refining pills, Dan Feng and the others were guarding outside, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Lu Lian had been running back and forth between the Lu family and the outstanding pavilion for the past few days. Although she was tired, she enjoyed it. To her, protecting Ling Xiao was also a blissful thing. When the 20 fledgling dragon pills were successfully refined, Ji Luoyu returned. She brought back 10 portions of Big Dipper, Earthly Fiend, Scarlet Sun Malatang ingredients. Thus, Ling Xiao continued to make the Malatang. This did not take long. He finished it in 2 hours. In fact, when he was refining pills and making the malatang, Ling Xiao fully utilized the advantage of his Gemini martial souls. He continued to study the map of the secret realm. With the help of the Tai Chi eye, he finally saw through the mystery of the secret realm map. It turned out that there was also a type of intelligent life living underground in the mystic world. Just like the Sea Clan in the sea, the life underground in the mystic world was called the Spirit Clan. The Spirit Clan lived underground for a long time and was very adapted to the darkness. Thus, they were also called the Night Clan. The place indicated on the map was the remains of a Nightman clan. It was unknown whether there were any Nightman clan members living there. However, what was certain was that there were a lot of precious treasures in the Night Clan's ruins. Just like the Changle secret realm on the Changle Celestial Island, if one was lucky, not only could he achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation, but he might also obtain something unexpected. Everyone, take the Big Dipper Earthly Fiend Scarlet Sun Malatang and Fledgling Dragon Pills. Go into seclusion for 3 days and try to achieve a breakthrough in your cultivation. Next, let's go to the Night Clan's ruins. After making 10 portions of Big Dipper Earthly Fiend Scarlet Sun Malatang, Ling Xiao gave the order. Of course, as the maker, he received 2 portions of Big Dipper Earthly Fiend Scarlet Sun Malatang. The remaining 8 people, including Lu Lian, each received a portion. They also received 12 Fledgling Dragon Pills. Of course, 5 of them were promised to Sun Lingchan. Even so, there were still 7 left. The remaining 8 Fledgling Dragon Pills were given to the other 8 people. 3 days later, Dan Feng was the first to end his closed-door cultivation. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the 10th level of the Yin-Yang realm, and he was very close to breaking through. He believed that as long as he followed Ling Xiao to the secret realm, he would definitely be able to make a breakthrough in his cultivation. Lu Lian and Dan Feng were in a similar situation. Mou and Zhu Xiaocong also came out of closed-door cultivation one after another. Both of them had broken through to the 5th level of the Yin-Yang realm, although this level of strength was still lacking compared to the cultivators of the Tianhai Empire. It was at least an improvement. Feng Minglian and Ji Luoyu's cultivation had broken through to the peak of the 6th level of the Yin-Yang realm. Other than Ling Xiao, the ones who improved the most were Long Chen and Cold Plum. After the life-or-death battle with Sun Xiao, the dragon's potential was stimulated. Coupled with the effects of the heavenly spirit, earthly fiend, Scarlet Yang Malatang, and the fledgling dragon pill, he actually broke through to the peak of Yin-Yang realm 7th level. Cold Plum was equally terrifying. After absorbing the energy from the 10,000 ghost banner and taking 2 miraculous herbs, her cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th level of the Yin-Yang realm. She was already catching up to the talented Long Chin. This was a huge improvement. As for Ling Xiao, he had been in closed-door cultivation for the longest time. Of course, it was inevitable that he would break through. His cultivation had jumped from the middle stage of the 7th level of the Yin-Yang realm to the early stage of the 8th level of the Yin-Yang realm. With this cultivation, even if he encountered the Saint Sword of the Wind demon again, he would not be afraid. Good. You've all broken through in your cultivation. However, this is not enough. The next step is the key. How much you can break through in this underground world's secret realm will depend on your own abilities. I can't help you. Ling Xiao looked at the cultivators of the Tianhai Empire and said, seriously, this trip to the secret realm will be filled with danger. You must be careful. Don't worry, Your Majesty. If we were afraid of death, we wouldn't have come to the Tianhai Empire. Since we're here, we have no fear. Everyone's thoughts were very clear. Rather than being bullied at the White Tiger store meet, it was better to break through more. That way, even if they died because of the adventure, it would be worth it. Before heading to the secret realm, Ling Xiao gave 5 perfect-grade fledgling dragon pills to Sun Lingchan. Then, the group of 9 left Tianhai City quietly and headed for the Night Man Race ruins dozens of miles away. According to the map he had deciphered, there was an altar about 100 meters underground that led to the underground world. This was not difficult for a yin-yang realm cultivator. After confirming the location, Ling Xiao dug a hole in the ground 100 meters underground, and everyone followed him. 100 meters underground was actually a very spacious place. There was a seemingly abandoned altar here. How is it? Can it be reactivated? Dan Feng asked. No problem. This altar is activated by spirit stones and arrays. Given my ability, it won't take more than 2 hours to repair it. You guys are in charge of guarding it. I'll repair the altar. Ling Xiao was really grateful that his Yuan Venerate Master had taught him how to refine arrays. Otherwise, he would have been stumped by this ordinary altar. Your Majesty, it seems like we are being watched. Dan Feng lowered his voice. I know. Ling Xiao nodded. Ever since I obtained the map of the secret realm, the Tianhai Empire's royal family and the Fan family have been watching me. It's normal to be followed. Then what should we do? Are we going to work for someone else? Long Qin was anxious. Don't worry, it's even better that they're here. I still want to recruit more warriors. I've read in the ancient records that the Nightman clan hates outsiders very much. With just the few of us, if we encounter a strong opponent, it will be really difficult to deal with them. However, if we attract a large number of martialists, then we can take advantage of the situation. The few of you must follow me closely. Do you understand? Ling Xiao reminded them. So your Majesty already has a plan. Looks like I worried too much. Dan Feng smiled. The longer he stayed by Ling Xiao's side, the more he realized how terrifying and powerful Ling Xiao was. He couldn't help but admire him even more. 2 hours later, the altar was repaired. Ling Xiao took out 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones and inserted them. Crack! As the mid-grade spirit stones were inserted, the array was activated. Then, a thick beam of light penetrated the soil and rushed out of the ground. See, this is my method of recruiting martialists. Ling Xiao smiled. We aren't the only ones keeping an eye on the Nightman race ruins. I'm sure all the martialists of the Tianhai Empire are keeping an eye on it. However, most of them don't have a map of the secret realm. Furthermore, those who have a map can't decipher the mysteries within. However, they will definitely send someone to keep an eye on it. Once this beam of light is released, many people will definitely come. Idiot! Suddenly, an angry roar was heard from above. A figure flew down. This was the powerhouse who had been following Ling Xiao. He was at the 12th level of the Yin-Yang realm and was a famous bandit outside Tianhai City. People called him Demonic Blade. Chapter 1755. Demonic Blade was in his 50s and was elusive. He had been following Ling Xiao when he obtained the map of the secret realm in the Hell Pagoda. Originally, he planned to destroy Ling Xiao and company so that he could go to the underground world alone to search for the opportunity. However, that beam of light gave him a fright. If that beam of light were to shoot out, wouldn't everyone know? Slash! Demonic Blade brandished the large saber in his hand as a terrifying saber beam attempted to shatter the beam of light. This saber strike was extremely powerful. The ferocious saber beam slashed down as though it was going to split the heavens and earth, directly striking the beam of light. Boom! Unfortunately, the beam of light was too terrifying. It sent Demonic Blade's long saber flying before shooting straight into the sky. When the nearby warriors saw the beam of light, they quickly informed their masters. Therefore, in less than a quarter of an hour, countless powerful martial artists rushed over from all directions and gathered together. Demonic Blade landed on the ground with a gloomy expression. He looked coldly at Ling Xiao and said, "You stay behind. The rest of you can scram. The opportunity in the underground world belongs to me. Demonic Blade. None of you deserve it. I'll kill anyone who disobeys me." Since the beam of light had already flown out, he knew that he couldn't change the situation. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and revealed a sinister smile. At most, he would just go on a killing spree. Hee hee, demonic blade, aren't you a little too funny? Since the ruins have appeared, everyone who sees it will have a share. Although your cultivation is powerful, you don't have the qualifications to make us listen to you. The person who laughed was an old man who had just arrived at the altar. Ling Xiao recognized him. He was the administrator of the Hell Pagoda and also a member of the Fan family. Fan Lalian, are you courting death? Demonic Blade didn't give any face when he heard Fan Lalian's words. He brandished the large saber in his hand, and a terrifying saber beam tore through the air, slashing directly at Fan Lalian. Demonic Sound Palm. As the administrator of the Hell Pagoda and an old servant of the Fan family, Fan Lalian had a revered status. Not many people in the Tianhai Empire dared to provoke him. Therefore, he didn't expect Demonic Blade to attack without a word. He hurriedly struck out with both palms to block the ferocious saber beam. Boom! A terrifying cracking sound resounded throughout the entire underground, and all the animals within a radius of several hundred meters were frightened and fled in all directions. Some of the weaker cultivators who had just arrived were sent flying, unable to even get close to the altar. Everyone be careful! Ling Xiao released his supreme sword intent, protecting the warriors on his side with Dan Feng and Lu Lian. He didn't care about other people's lives at all. However, nothing must happen to the people he had brought with him. Ahem! Demon Saber, it seems like you know what treasures there are in this underground world. If that's the case, I can't leave. Old Man Fan coughed out a mouthful of blood, but his injuries were not serious. Instead, an excited red glow appeared on his face because he had guessed the intention of the demonic saber. Such a decisive attack meant that demonic saber had some understanding of the things in the Nightman race's ruins. Mo Dao often killed people for no reason, so he might have obtained some secrets from somewhere. At the thought of this, Old Man Fan felt that he had made the right choice in coming here to join in the fun. Demonic Saber snorted and said, Old Man Fan and all of you, get out of here as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll kill everyone I see and make you regret competing with me for treasures. His words were quite overbearing and arrogant. However, the warriors who came one after another didn't say anything, because demonic saber strength was the most terrifying among the warriors who came this time. If he wanted to kill someone, no one could stop him. Moreover, this guy's ferocious reputation had long spread throughout the Tianhai Empire. Almost everyone knew about him. Few people dared to offend such a person. However, if they couldn't afford to offend one person, it would be different if 2 or 3 or 4 people joined forces. Commander Tianhai, Old Man Spirit Pill, and Sect Master Fengming of Dragon Phoenix Mountain, are you willing to let Demonic Saber do as he pleases? There are many opportunities in the underground world. If we join forces, we can all get benefits. We can't let him monopolize everything. Old Man Fan knew that he wasn't as good as Demonic Saber, so he invited the 3 prominent figures in the group to join forces. Of course, this was done secretly through voice transmission. Even if they didn't succeed, no one would hear them. Tian Jun was one of the commanders of Tianhai City's defense. His cultivation was at the 11th level of the Yin-Yang realm. Old Man Spirit Pill was Medicine King Pavilion's son, Saw's subordinate. His cultivation was also at the 11th level of the Yin-Yang realm. Dragon Phoenix Mountain's Sect Master Fengming and Wu Yang's true cultivation was also at the same level, in addition to Old Man Fan. The 4 of them were at the 11th level of the Yin-Yang realm. They still had a chance of winning against a 12th level martial artist. In order to prepare, Old Man Fan secretly contacted a few warriors he knew. Basically, they were all experts who accompanied the White Tiger Meat candidates. However, their cultivation was inferior to the 4 of them. No problem. Old Man Tianhai nodded. It was obvious that Demonic Saber was too overbearing. He was no match for Demonic Saber alone, so it was more appropriate to join forces. Fengming Wuyang and Old Man Spirit Pill had no objections. The 4 of them hit it off immediately. Most importantly, Demonic Saber was too greedy. He wanted to take the treasure for himself. Who would let him have his way? After the four of them finished their discussion, they walked out of the crowd and surrounded Demonic Saber. Then, more than 10 people walked out of the crowd. All of them were at the 10th level of the Yin Yang realm. Old Man Fan sneered and said, "Demonic Saber, if you're willing to share the treasure, we won't be enemies with you. However, what you're doing is despicable. You're stronger than us, but if we join forces, you won't be able to gain any advantage." "That's right. Demonic Saber, move aside if you know what's good for you. The altar has been opened, and the path to the underground world will be opened at any time. If you don't move aside, we won't hold back." Old Man Fan said coldly, "Ha ha ha ha, a bunch of trash joining forces. You're still trash. Do you really think you can stop me with your numbers?" Demonic Saber was extremely arrogant. He didn't even care about Old Man Fan and the others joining forces. He even had the intention of starting a fight if they didn't agree. The martial artists with weaker cultivations retreated one after another. Although the temptation of the treasure was huge, it would be inappropriate to lose one's life for the treasure. After all, the destructive power of a battle between martial artists at the 10th level of the Yin Yang realm was too terrifying. The aftershock alone was enough to kill them. All the land under the heavens belongs to the king. What's there to fight about? I've decided that we can all share the underground world. Just as both parties were about to draw their swords and fight, a voice came from afar. A moment later, a martial artist in a divine crocodile robe appeared in a palanquin. He was dressed extravagantly. The 4 people carrying the palanquin were also terrifying powerhouses. Their cultivation was at the 11th level of the Yin Yang realm. Chapter 1756. The person carrying the palanquin was at the 11th level of the Yin Yang realm. The person carrying the palanquin was not inferior to Demonic Saber in terms of strength. In fact, his aura was even stronger. The divine crocodile robe was only worn by the imperial family. Therefore, this person must be from the imperial family. "Greetings, Your Highness Prince Wu." The Tianhai army hurriedly greeted this person. The others also bowed. Prince Wu? He was the younger brother of the Tianhai Empire's emperor. Ling Xiao could not help but laugh inwardly when he saw this person. The imperial family was indeed greedy. They would definitely want a share of something as precious as the Nightman race's ruins. However, what was interesting was that other than them, no other forces sent their young geniuses. It seemed that the White Tiger meet was approaching. The major forces were still cautious about the dangerous secret realm. "It's actually Prince Wu." Demonic Saber's expression turned ugly. This person's strength was on par with his. It was impossible for him to suppress Prince Wu. If Prince Wu joined forces with Fan Laolian and the others, how could he stop them alone? Damn it! It was all that Ling Xiao's fault. If he had not released the light beam rashly and attracted so many experts, this situation would not have happened. He glanced coldly at Ling Xiao, but found that the kid was still smiling. Damn! Did this kid attract so many people on purpose? At that moment, Demonic Saber seemed to have understood something. He thought that with Ling Xiao and the other strength, it was more likely that they would die if they entered the underground world. However, if they could find a large number of experts to help them, it would be a completely different story. What a cunning kid! At the thought of this, Demonic Saber's judgment of Ling Xiao was clearly higher. He suddenly looked at Prince Wu and said, "This place was discovered by that kid. He was also the one who activated the altar. It's up to him whether we can share it or not." Clearly, Demonic Saber was finding a way out for himself. Since he could no longer control the situation, he might as well admit defeat. However, he had to find a way to admit defeat. He could not embarrass himself too much. When everyone heard Demonic Saber's words, they all looked at Ling Xiao. Junior is naturally willing. The treasures belong to those who are virtuous. Junior's strength is meager, so I naturally do not dare to monopolize them. Ling Xiao smiled, and his attitude was very humble. Anyway, you guys are here to be my cannon fodder, so I won't lose anything if I treat you guys with a better attitude. You're cunning. However, the Night Human Clan's relic isn't something trash like you can touch. Mo Dao sneered. He suddenly looked at Prince Wu and said, Prince Wu, the treasures in the ruins are definitely limited. The more people there are, the less we will get. Don't tell me you want to let those trash take a share. What do you mean? Just say it. Prince Wu said coldly. It's very simple. You and I will chase these people away or kill them, and then split the treasure equally. As expected, Demonic Saber was still unwilling to let too many people taint his treasures. If only he and Wu Qinhuang were left, then he would have a way to play Wu Qinhuang to death. Your Highness, don't listen to him. He's extremely cunning. I've looked up his information before. Any martial artist who cooperated with him, even if their cultivation was higher than his, couldn't escape death in the end. Tian Hai Jun hurriedly shouted. You talk too much. Demonic Saber was instantly enraged when he heard Tian Hai Jun's words. If Demonic Saber didn't interrupt, Prince Wu would definitely agree to his suggestion, given his greed. A terrifying black saber chi slashed towards Tian Hai Jun. Tian Hai Jun was alone, so he was no match for Demonic Saber. Moreover, he didn't expect Demonic Saber to attack him in front of Prince Wu, so he was stunned. Divine Crocodile Fist. Just as Demonic Saber Chi was on the line between life and death, a fist flew out and collided with the Black Saber Chi. The two types of energy almost collapsed in the air at the same time. Demonic Saber and Prince were actually on par with each other in this collision. Demonic Saber, you can't kill Tian Hai Jun. You can't kill martial artists above the 10th level of Yin Yang realm. Prince Wu glanced at Demonic Saber and said, You should understand what I mean. As for those martial artists below the 10th level of Yin Yang realm, you can deal with them as soon as possible so that they won't be an eyesore. Hundreds of martial artists felt the terrifying threat of death when they heard this. Those who were smart and reacted quickly circulated their Yin Yang origin energy and fled into the distance. They understood what Prince Wu meant. Martial artists below the 10th level of Yin Yang realm wouldn't be of any help in the underground world. Instead, they would share in the fortuitous encounters. Therefore, it was best to kill them. Ling Xiao didn't leave. He stood there and casually took out a formation refining stone to connect the 9 of them. The 9 of them gathered their origin energy and formed a powerful defensive wall. Even a 13th level Yin Yang realm martial artist wouldn't be able to break through this defense, let alone a 12th level Yin Yang realm martial artist. That's right, ants. How dare you touch the treasures? Go to hell. Demonic Saber, who had been suppressing his anger, vented it on Ling Xiao first. He thought that all of this was caused by Ling Xiao's beam of light. However, the range of his attack was too large. Almost all the martial artists below the 10th level of Yin Yang realm were caught in it. This made the scene even more chaotic. In my name, Demonic Saber, kill. Demonic Saber's title wasn't just for show. He raised the pitch-black Demonic Saber in his hand. Terrifying saber chi quickly gathered and formed a huge saber chi that was hundreds of meters long and dozens of meters wide. As the saber slashed down, dozens of martial artists died on the spot before the terrifying saber chi even landed. This was because they couldn't block the attack of the terrifying saber chi. A 12th level Yin Yang realm martial artist is indeed powerful. The power of this saber technique is truly formidable. Ling Xiao originally thought that since they were both Yin Yang realm martial artists, the difference between the 10th and 12th levels of the Yin Yang realm wouldn't be that big. However, after witnessing the Demonic Saber's attack, he understood, other than a monster like him, the difference in strength between the rest of the martial artists was huge. Under the Demonic Saber's attack, the martial artists below the 10th level of the Yin Yang realm were like ants in a gale. Their bodies flew around involuntarily. Some even crashed into each other and died at the same time. The protective wall that the 9 of them worked together to hold up was constantly distorted by the saber. It seemed like it would collapse at any time. Ling Xiao was about to unleash his true strength to fight against the demonic saber. However, at that moment, he saw some words appear on the altar from the corner of his eye. Get ready. The underground world's passage is about to open. Ling Xiao understood the meaning of the words clearly with his Tai Chi eye. Therefore, he quickly informed the 9 people on his side to get ready. To prevent the 9 of them from being thrown to different places, Ling Xiao connected the 9 of them with a formation so that they could take care of each other. Just as he was done, the altar suddenly spun wildly. Chapter 1757. A huge energy whirlpool formed above the altar. The demonic blade's attacks were all sucked away by the whirlpool. Even the demonic blade itself was pulled towards the whirlpool because it was close to the altar. It wasn't just him. All the martial artists within 100 meters of the altar were sucked in by the terrifying energy whirlpool. The whirlpool was too terrifying. No one could completely control their own bodies. Not even Ling Xiao could. Hence, he could only try his best to remain calm and observe his surroundings. He was prepared to deal with any unexpected situations. After an unknown amount of time, perhaps it was an instant, or perhaps it was 2 hours, because their minds were dizzy, they couldn't determine what had just happened. They only knew that they had fallen underground. Of the 400 martial artists, only 300 had survived. Dozens of people died in the process of this fall. Fortunately, Ling Xiao and the others were connected by a formation. If anyone was in danger, they could help. Hence, all 9 of them had survived. The world below was almost pitch black, with only a few weak lights flickering there. These lights seemed to be emitted by some special plants and ores. Apart from that, the entire world was pitch black. It took a long time for the warriors to adapt to the darkness before they could see clearly in the darkness. Are these the ruins of the Night Man race? Dan Feng looked around. There were indeed some dilapidated buildings. They were completely different from the buildings on the surface. Most of the terrain here was filled with caves. There were big and small ones, and they were all connected to each other. It was like a maze. It's filled with a rotten aura. There's also an extremely powerful soul force. Ling Xiao took a deep breath. He found that there was no problem with breathing here. The Night Man race was probably like humans. They needed air to survive. Although they lived underground, there were still plants that could release air. Of course, Ling Xiao was most concerned about the restless Lord of Hell in his body. When he was on the 99th floor of the Hell Tower, he had relied on the Butterfly Lady's help to trap the Lord of Hell in the Hell Dragon Talisman. He had used the Hell Dragon fire to refine it. However, there was no effect. But when he came here, he discovered that the Lord of Hell was in a state of nervousness. What did that mean? This meant that there was something in the underground world that he was afraid of. Ling Xiao couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Even if he couldn't find any other opportunities in the underground world, as long as he could completely refine the power of the Abyssal Lord, it would definitely be a great gain for him. What kind of damned place is this? It's so damp and dark. How do the night humans even live here? The martial artists began to complain. Because the air was filled with dense moisture, everyone felt very uncomfortable. Huge underground plants were growing haphazardly in all kinds of caves and crevices. No matter how one looked at it, it was uncomfortable. Watch out for spiders. Suddenly, someone shouted, "What's so scary about spiders? To think that you're a martial artist." However, when this person spoke, his face suddenly turned extremely ugly. A contentment that was 4 to 5 times his size crawled out of the dark cave, then opened its strange, huge mouth and bit towards him. Help! In a state of panic, the martial artists shouted as they desperately waved their weapons to attack. However, in front of the huge spider, everything he did seemed so childish and laughable. His entire body was swallowed by the spider. Before he died, his body was still wriggling in the spider's mouth. This person probably never dreamed that one day he would be swallowed by a tiny spider like a mosquito. It was simply too tragic. Crazy. What kind of damned place is this? Why is there such a huge spider? The other martial artists were so frightened that they ran away. More than 10 people were swallowed by the spiders because they panicked. The spiders just hung above the cave, waiting for people to sneak attack when they passed by. Actually, the spiders weren't that strong. 5th or 6th level Yin-Yang realm martial artists could easily deal with them. The problem was that many people were too nervous and panicked. Once they encountered a situation, they would completely lose their minds and do some stupid things, causing their own deaths. Don't panic. Aim your attacks. These spiders aren't as strong as you think. Ling Xiao warned his companions. The 9 of them stood together and formed a tight defensive formation. A spider fell from the top of the cave. Its tail was still tied with thick silk threads. It tried to bite Mou. Long Chin, who was beside Mou, reacted quickly and punched out. The terrifying dragon fist smashed the spider into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere, and the cave walls were covered with sticky things. Swoosh, 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 as if to take revenge for the dead spider. More than 10 huge spiders fell from the top of the cave in an instant. They wanted to swallow Ling Xiao and the others, courting death. A cold light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. The spiders were trying to use their advantage in numbers to deal with them. His left eye suddenly released a blazing light that turned into boundless flames. Heaven-burning eye. True Samadhi fire. Ling Xiao didn't use any martial techniques. Instead, he used a soul secret technique to attack the spiders. The moment he arrived in the underground world, he realized that the air here was filled with dense soul aura. He suspected that the Nightman clan was skilled in soul attacks, similar to the soul race. It was rumored that the soul race was the descendant of the human race and the Nightman clan. As a member of the Nightman clan, it was natural that they were skilled in soul attacks. The attack this time was just a test. The effect was perfect. The power unleashed by the heaven-burning eye was at least twice as strong as usual. The terrifying flames burned the entire group of spiders to ashes in an instant. He easily solved the problem on his side, but there were too many spiders. Many martial artists had already died tragically under the spiders' sneak attacks. Ling Xiao looked at the situation. There were a large number of spider eggs at the top of the cave. These spider eggs seemed to be constantly hatching spiders. If they continued fighting like this, even if they weren't killed, they would be exhausted to death. Let's go. We can't stay here any longer. Ling Xiao quickened his pace and left the spider nest. The other martial artists weren't stupid. Seeing him leave, they all followed behind and ran. After a while, Ling Xiao suddenly stopped. In front of him was a forest full of mushrooms and wood ears. It didn't look dangerous, but Ling Xiao's intuition told him that the road ahead wasn't so easy. He reminded Dan Feng and the others. Then he still walked at the front. His taiji eye was always open, afraid that something unexpected would happen. In Ling Xiao's view, this underground world was unfamiliar and dangerous. Perhaps it was full of opportunities, but it also made people fearful. Chapter 1758. There was a dangerous aura in the forest, which made everyone tense up. Plop! Suddenly, a Yin-Yang realm warrior fell to the ground. Then his body quickly corroded and turned into huge mushrooms. This scene caused everyone to be alarmed. There were so many mushrooms and wood ears here, but they were all transformed from human corpses. This was too disgusting and terrifying. Everyone hold your breaths and swallow the antidote pill I gave you. Ling Xiao reminded the people on his side. This should be the legendary Mushroom Forest. In ancient times, it was actually called the Demon Bone Forest. However, after some misinformation, it became less terrifying and people forgot how terrifying this forest was. Those mushrooms can release gas that makes people dizzy. Once they fall and lose consciousness, countless tiny microorganisms will completely decompose the corpse in a moment and turn it into new mushrooms. Ling Xiao could not help but rejoice that he had been practicing martial arts diligently and had read a lot of books. Otherwise, he would not have been able to guess such a situation. In a small patch of forest, dozens of martial artists were lost. Ling Xiao did not sympathize with these people. He did not force these people to take the risk with him. These people were driven by their own greed. If they died or something happened, it was their own fault. They could not blame him. He just needed to protect the people around him. Brat, take out your antidote pill and share it with everyone. Mo Dao stared at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao ignored him. After walking out of the mushroom forest, his face gradually darkened. Mo Dao, if you have the time to find trouble with me, you should worry about our enemies. Within the range of Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye, there was a group of dark-skinned, handsome humanoids moving towards them at high speed. If he guessed correctly, they must be the Nightman tribe. This was because these people were almost identical to the Nightman tribe that Ling Xiao had seen in books. The attire of the Nightman clan was very strange. They basically wore leather armor, which was made from the skin of various animals. There was no cloth. This meant that the textile industry here was almost non-existent. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that every single one of these night humans was very fast. They moved through the ravines of the underground world as if they were walking on flat ground. Enemy. Mo Dao was stunned for a moment. Soon after, he sneered and said, "Even I didn't discover anything, but you actually discovered it? Don't make these childish excuses. I said that I will destroy you, so I will definitely destroy you. No one can change that." Idiot. Ling Xiao scolded coldly, and then ordered Dan Feng and the others to lie down. Right at this moment, whoosh, whoosh, suddenly, dozens of arrows were shot out from the dark forest, not far away. These arrows were wrapped in a terrifying wind energy. However, this energy was not internal energy, but pure soul power. Soul power actually has an attribute. This was Ling Xiao's first time seeing such a thing. The terrifying soul arrows were extremely powerful. A few more unlucky Yin realm martial artists were hit by the arrows, and a terrifying hole appeared in their bodies. He died on the spot. There were even people who were shot dozens of meters away and exploded in the air. The scene was extremely tragic. Mo Dao was also attacked, but he was strong. With a wave of his black saber, the arrows flying toward him were deflected and hit a nearby tree. Even so, Mo Dao was still quite shocked. This was because the arrows were so powerful that his hands were numb from the impact. Only Ling Xiao and the others who were lying down avoided this wave of arrows and were safe. Are you a descendant of the night humans? We don't have any enmity. Can we talk face to face? Someone among the martial artists shouted. However, what answered him was a sharp arrow that directly pierced through his head, killing him. The night humans are bloodthirsty and kill any martial artist who dares to enter their territory. You actually want to reconcile? Too stupid. Tianhai army said coldly. Then he raised his spear and charged at the enemies in the forest at an extremely fast speed. A powerhouse like him naturally wouldn't choose to sit and wait for death. Dozens of arrows flew over. Their target was Tianhai army. They seemed to want to turn this human into a beehive for daring to counterattack. However, Tianhai army was a level 11 Yin realm powerhouse after all. Although the arrows could break through his origin power protection, they couldn't break through his physical body. After a while, he was already close to the night humans in the dark. Then he waved his spear and killed 4 night humans on the spot. Since there was no need to talk, he could only kill. He definitely wouldn't show mercy. Tianhai army's actions obviously angered the night humans in the forest. In an instant, hundreds of arrows shot toward him at almost the same time. Not only that, but Ling Xiao also saw a few shadows approaching Tianhai army in the dark. Shadow Cone! Although Ling Xiao didn't mind other martial artists dying in battle, Tianhai army was definitely a very useful combat force. Therefore, at this moment, even if others didn't help, he would. Dozens of shadow cones shot through the air at the same time. After a while, several figures fell in the dark. Not only that, but many of the arrows in the sky were also scattered. "Thank you." Tian High Army blocked the remaining arrows and turned to look at Ling Xiao. "No need. Focus on the battle." Roar! An angry roar came from the forest. This roar was filled with anger and sorrow. There was something. Everyone stared at the trembling bushes. Unlike the sneak attack just now, they were prepared for battle this time. They believed that as long as the enemy dared to attack, they had enough power to destroy them. However, sometimes imagination wasn't reality. Whoosh! A black shadow darted out of the bushes. The martial artist didn't even see what it was before someone's throat was slit by a sharp blade and died on the spot. Those who were faster and had sharp reactions were able to dodge such a surprise attack. Moreover, he could clearly see what the black shadow was that came out of the thicket. The first thing they saw was a black panther. It wasn't very big, but it had explosive power and was extremely fast. Then they saw the riders on the black panther. The weapons these riders used were actually boomerangs. The boomerangs were also burning with soul energy and could easily pierce through the protective yuan energy of many martial artists. This was the main culprit behind the deaths of those martial artists. The terrifying Black Panther riders relied on their powerful charge and speed to instantly kill a group of people before vanishing into the forest. They were preparing for an even more terrifying second wave of attacks. Ling Xiao sensed that this wasn't the only danger. The night humans were clearly skilled in battle, especially since this was their territory. For the night humans who were familiar with the terrain, killing the remaining 200-some martial artists was not difficult. Chapter 1759. Whoosh! Like a ghost, a boomerang flew out of the dense forest, cutting through countless pieces of grass as it charged towards Lu Lian. Lu Lian's expression was calm. A ball of fire spewed out from her hand. She didn't dodge and directly melted the boomerang. Then this terrifying fist energy scuttled into the grass, and a scream was heard. A Black Panther knight died on the spot. Even the Black Panther knight was burnt to a crisp. Everyone, don't be afraid. Although these night men are familiar with the terrain, they are generally weak. As long as we deal with them carefully, we should be fine. Elder Fan hurriedly shouted. His shout stabilized the morale of the troops. Otherwise, if the chaos continued, the Black Panther knights and the archers would take them down one by one. However, the night men's attacks wouldn't stop because of his shout. A Black Panther knight suddenly rushed out and pounced towards Ling Xiao. The Black Panther bared its teeth and clawed at Ling Xiao with its huge claws. The knight's boomerang also chopped towards Ling Xiao's neck. Ling Xiao was about to attack, but at that moment he chose to take a step back. It was this step that allowed him to avoid the attack from the sky. He raised his head and looked up. In the sky, an eagle was staring at Ling Xiao. When it flapped its wings, it actually created a raging wind. This wind was enough to tear apart hard stones and thick trees. Is that also a night man? Ling Xiao was puzzled, but he didn't stop his attacks. As he retreated, a red sun all pierced through the air. At the same time, a shadow all pierced towards the Black Panther knight in front of him. The red sun all pierced through the air and instantly flashed with a blinding light. The eagle lost its vision. By the time it recovered, its body had been pierced by the red sun all. The other Black Panther knights were also pierced by Ling Xiao's shadow all. They all died. However, what surprised him was that after the eagle landed, it actually transformed into a human. This is very similar to the bloodline power on the surface, but it feels a little different. Through the Taiji eye, Ling Xiao could clearly analyze that the energy this person needed to transform all came from soul power. The soul could transform the body. This was somewhat inconceivable, but that was the truth. With the addition of the Eagle Knight clan, the battle became even more intense. Although the martial artists on the surface were more powerful, there were more of them. Furthermore, They were familiar with the terrain, and their combat power was not weak. Dark Sky Devil Land. Mo Dao's roar suddenly came, and a terrifying horizontal slash was directly slashed out. Even he couldn't stand the constant harassment from the Nightman clan. He actually didn't want to attack, but the Nightman race wouldn't stop attacking him just because of that. The enraged Devil Blade finally made his move. A fan-shaped saber, Chi, flattened the forest in front of the demonic saber, which was dozens of square meters in size. Not only that, but many Black Panther knights and archers hiding in the forest were also cut in half, dying with their eyes wide open. Demonic blade is indeed a demonic blade. Your strength is indeed terrifying. However, your majesty isn't weak either. Wu Qinhuang and Demonic Blade had the same mentality. They didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but those nightmen just had to come and cause trouble for them. How could he not make a move? He directly struck out with his palm. This palm turned into a huge crocodile claw, covering an area of dozens of meters. Boom! The huge crocodile claw landed on the ground, and dozens of Nightman race martial artists were directly smashed into meat paste. Roar! Just then, an angry roar came from the forest. Then, Ling Xiao felt a terrifyingly powerful soul power accumulating at an accelerated speed. Everyone be careful. There's a stronger attack coming. If it was before, no one would believe him if he said that. However, ever since Ling Xiao accurately judged the appearance of the Nightman race, he became a member that everyone trusted. Everyone held their breaths and concentrated, circulating their essence force and preparing to defend. Whoosh! A terrifying sound was heard. Then, everyone saw a shocking scene. In the forest, a huge tornado rose from the ground and instantly appeared in front of everyone. A few martial artists near the edge were swept up by the violent wind and torn into pieces. What kind of attack is this? Why is it so terrifying? Soul Secret Technique. Demonic Blade gritted his teeth and said, "This is a truly terrifying soul secret technique. On the surface, only the soul race can use it freely. I didn't expect the Nightman race to use it even more terrifying. It seems like the rumors that the soul race is a hybrid between the Nightman race and the human race are true." He and Wu Qinhuang were both proficient in martial arts, and their yin and yang essence force was terrifying. However, their soul power wasn't too strong. Facing such an attack, they could only retreat. Just as everyone was about to flee, Ling Xiao suddenly appeared in front of that terrifying tornado. Ling Xiao had always wanted to meet an expert who also used soul power. Only then would he be able to truly hone his soul secret technique. How could he give up such a rare opportunity so easily? Sword Spirit's Eye Destruction Sword. The secret technique released by the Tai Chi I was all soul secret technique. The Destruction Sword was a terrifying sword condensed from soul power. It was a sword condensed from the destruction, sword intent. It would destroy everything, including the terrifying tornado in front of them. The terrifying shadow of the sword shot out and then grew in the wind, piercing through the huge tornado with a single strike. The tornado seemed to have lost its vitality and gradually withered, finally disappearing completely. Good. Beautiful. Seeing Ling Xiao defeat the gigantic tornado, almost all the martial artists were cheering for him. At this time and place, whether they were enemies or not, the warriors on the surface didn't want Ling Xiao to lose, because once Ling Xiao lost, they wouldn't be able to live. It's not over yet. Ling Xiao furrowed his brows. In an instant, a ferocious beast pounced out of the sword forest. A terrifying, ferocious beast that was formed entirely of soul power, destroying everything in its path. Good. Ling Xiao was waiting for the other party to make a move so that he could try more attacks. Eye of the Tomb of the God, Skeleton General. Tai Chi's eyes flickered. A deep giant door appeared beside Ling Xiao. A skeleton general stepped out of the door. It was also condensed from soul power. The long spear in its hand pierced through the destruction beast. Then it disappeared. It wasn't that he couldn't continue, but that Ling Xiao needed more soul power to deliver a fatal blow. Sword spirits, I slaughter sword. Ling Xiao jumped up. In midair, the Tai Chi eye flashed, and then a huge black sword pierced through the air, piercing into the depths of the forest. The Nightman clan expert in the forest obviously didn't expect his two attacks to be broken by the people on the surface. What he didn't expect was that the people on the surface actually attacked him again. Why did he have such terrifying soul power when he wasn't from the Nightman clan? He really couldn't figure it out. However, at this time, there was no time for him to figure it out. He could only urge his soul power to set up layers of thick wind shields in front of him. Chapter 1760. The Nightman clan expert used his soul force to form a wind shield. He attempted to block Ling Xiao's attack. It's useless. Your soul force isn't as good as mine. Your defense is nothing in front of me. Rumble. A terrifying explosion rang out from the forest. The terrifying black sword light seemed to have split the forest apart as it tore apart the windshield like it was made of paper. In the end, it pierced the body of the Nightman clan expert. Ah! The Nightman clan expert let out a blood-curdling scream. His soul realm was actually shattered by Ling Xiao's sword. The shattering of his soul realm meant that he was reduced to a walking corpse. His eyes that were filled with fighting spirit instantly turned lifeless. Clearly, the Nightman clan expert that Ling Xiao killed was a leader. At the very least, he should be the leader of this ambush team. His death instilled a huge fear in the Nightman clan. One must know that this person's terrifying strength was ranked in the top 10 of the Nightman clan. Yet he was killed so easily. How could they not be afraid? A strange, eagle-like cry rang out from the ground. Following that, the Nightman clan members that were hiding in the forest started to flee. Clearly, the death of their leader had caused them to feel fear. They also felt the strength of their opponent. They knew that there was no benefit in continuing to stand. The more powerful a martial artist's soul force was, the greater the fear they would feel when they failed. Both Devil Blade and Wu Qinhuang glanced at Ling Xiao intentionally. Clearly, they were shocked by Ling Xiao's fighting style. Only the Soul Clan or the Nightman clan would have such a pure soul force fighting style. Just where did this Ling Xiao come from? Humph, no matter where you come from. Only death awaits you if you dare to snatch from me. Devil Blade coldly snorted as he thought to himself. As for Wu Qinhuang, he looked at Ling Xiao thoughtfully. He knew that Ling Xiao's identity was the Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. Ling Xiao's path of growth was simply a legend. If he could be roped in to serve the imperial family, it would be a great fortune. Ling Xiao didn't know what the two of them were thinking. All he cared about was whether the 8 people he had brought with him were all right. Mou and Zhu Shaotsong were both injured, but their injuries were not serious. This kind of injury was also the best way to hone their combat abilities. If he completely protected them because he was afraid of death, he would not be helping them, but harming them. Looking at the other martial artists, they were really miserable. Of the 200 or so martial artists, only 150 were left. Many warriors were probably already regretting entering this underground world. After all, they hadn't even seen a single treasure and had already suffered countless casualties. It was really depressing. There was no danger for the time being, but no one dared to stay. They threw down the corpses and left quickly. The injured martial artists also tried their best to follow, afraid that they would be left behind. After all, these people were not from the same sect, and some of them did not even know each other. Who would sympathize with them? If you were a useful fighting force, others might help you. But if you were a burden, only a fool would care about your life and death. Her. I don't know how long I'll have to walk. It's been so long and I haven't even seen a fart. In the crowd, some martial artists complained. The so-called haven't seen anything was obviously because they had not seen the treasure and were dissatisfied. Many people felt the same way. However, they still had to hurry. This underground world seemed to be very big and was divided into different regions. This was because they found some strange buildings with different signs. Although they did not understand what was written on them, they looked like boundary markers. It seems that the underground world's Nightman clan is also divided into many clans. They all work together for a night demon, and this night demon bestows them with powerful soul force and soul secret techniques. As Ling Xiao walked, he used the Tai Chi eye to analyze the words. Those difficult to understand words were quickly translated. The night demon was a god of the Nightman clan, but rather than a god, it was better to say that they were experts who controlled the laws of the underground world, just like the 7 rulers of the mystic world. However, the night demon was much weaker than the 7 rulers. The area they controlled was very small and was limited to the Nightman clan's kingdom. They did not cross over. However, there were definitely strong and weak night demons, and they would inevitably fight and devour each other. Naturally, a more terrifying night demon king would be born, such as the King of Sovereigns. Ling Xiao discovered that the cave they had just passed by belonged to the Night Wind clan, the weakest of the 4 great clans of the Nightman kingdom. If they continued forward, they would encounter the strongest clan of the Nightman kingdom, the Darkfire clan. The Night Wind clan specialized in wind-type soul secret techniques. The Darkfire clan specialized in fire-type soul secret techniques. As Ling Xiao walked, he told everyone what he had seen. If he wanted to go further, he would have to rely on these people to continue helping him. If it was only the 9 of them, someone would definitely have to be sacrificed. But now he would try his best to transfer the death to those greedy cannon fodder. When they passed by a cluster of flowers, a beautiful flower actually moved slightly. Then it suddenly bloomed, revealing a strange bloody mouth that bit at Ling Xiao. Bang! Ling Xiao did not look at the strange, man-eating flower. This kind of plant was almost extinct on the surface, but it still existed in this underground world. It even had soul consciousness. It was completely different from the man-eating flowers that attacked their targets instinctively. He just waved his hand, and a strange flame flew out from his palm. The man-eating flower was instantly burned to ashes. When everyone saw this scene, they were shocked. Then they realized that those beautiful flowers would directly attack and gain the advantage by striking first. Under such circumstances, those flowers actually did something that left them dumbfounded. They actually pulled out their roots from the ground and ran away. That's right, they ran. It was as if they had grown legs. The soul power here is too strong. Even the plants are about to become spirits. Everyone better be careful. In another mile, we will reach the territory of the Darkfire clan. Ling Xiao reminded, "Why must we go to the Darkfire clan? Can't we go somewhere else?" Someone asked worriedly. After all, the Night Wind clan was already so terrifying. How terrifying would the number 1 Darkfire clan of the Night Kingdom be? You can go somewhere else, but the soul shrine marked on the map is in the territory of the Darkfire clan. And it is said that there are a lot of soul wills left behind by experts in the soul shrine. Once you obtain these wills, you can obtain the martial arts legacy of these experts. If you want to leave, it doesn't matter. Just go that way and you can directly leave. Ling Xiao pointed in a direction and said. The direction he was pointing in was completely random, because the map did not mark the way out, only the direction of the soul shrine. Chapter 1761. Many people hesitated for a moment before deciding to continue following Ling Xiao. If they left without permission, who knew what dangers they would encounter? It was always safer to follow a large group. When Mo Dao heard Ling Xiao mention the name of the spiritual temple, his eyes clearly changed. He had obviously studied the underground ruins and knew about the existence of the spiritual temple. Moreover, it was very likely that he had entered the underground for the spiritual temple. Since no one is leaving, let's continue. Don't say I didn't warn you. The Darkfire clan's territory will be more dangerous. Ling Xiao said indifferently before continuing forward. After walking for about 1 mile, Everyone suddenly felt the air become scorching hot. Looking ahead, they saw a world that seemed to be scorched. Everything here was pitch black, different from the gray color from before. The air was filled with a burnt smell. The most terrifying thing was the pitch-black flames that were constantly spewing out from the ground. Everyone, it's best to fly in the air and not step on the ground because no one knows what will happen. Ling Xiao reminded and then took the lead to soar into the air. A pair of pitch-black wings appeared behind him. However, his speed wasn't fast because he didn't know what dangers he would encounter. Dan Feng and the others followed closely behind him, also moving forward slowly. However, Mo Dao obviously couldn't stand the speed. Since he already knew that the spiritual temple was in the Dark Fire Clan's territory, he had to reach there first. This guy was indeed strong, and his flying speed was also extremely fast. Some warriors were influenced by him and also sped up. Shouldn't we hurry? Mou asked. No need. The spiritual temple needs this map to open. Do you think this map is an ordinary map? It's a treasure made of special materials. It's a key to open the spiritual temple. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, Since they want to open the way for us, let them go. Just as all the warriors stepped into the Dark Fire Clan's territory, another group chased after them. Damn it, we were still a step too late and let them escape into the Dark Fire Clan's territory. The people chasing after them were the Night Wind Clan's night people. After these night people ran back, they brought back powerful reinforcements. Even their own patriarch came. Don't worry, the Dark Fire Clan's territory is even more dangerous than ours. A powerful flame monster that guards the Dark Fire Clan resides there. It was bestowed to their number one clan by Lord Night Demon. Among this group of people, there was a tall, dark-skinned, middle-aged, beautiful woman. Although her skin was dark, her figure and face were of the highest quality. She was riding a ferocious white tiger, looking very ferocious. This person was the clan leader of the Night Wind clan. Chief, are you talking about the Black Flame Duke? Someone beside him asked. That's right. The Black Flame Duke and his minions love to taste human blood. The female patriarch sneered. Yes, that's not all. The Dark Fire race has a deep enmity with the surface humans. An old man at the side stroked his beard and said, Back then, the Dark Fire race invited a surface human to visit the underground world. Their goal was to ease the tension between the surface and underground races. However, that surface human stole the Dark Fire race's treasure and killed the saintess who was guarding the treasure. This is an unforgivable crime. That surface human should be the crown prince of the Tianhai Empire, right? I'm afraid he's already the emperor of the Tianhai Empire. All right, let's not talk about this. Leave a team here to keep an eye on those people. If they return, inform me immediately. The rest of you, follow me back. The female patriarch glanced at the backs of the surface martial artists, and two figures appeared in her mind. She once loved a surface martial artist, but unfortunately that person couldn't accept her feelings because of another woman. She was very angry back then, but after so many years, she had seen many heartless men. Instead, she began to admire that man. What a single-minded man he was. Above the Dark Fire race's territory, some strange flames would fly up from time to time. They swayed as if floating with the wind. However, Ling Zhao's expression didn't look good when he saw these flames. We're being watched, Ling Xiao reminded. The soul power released by those flames has completely locked onto all of us. Are those also sentient beings? Someone asked. Probably. Ling Xiao wasn't very sure either. There were many things in the underground world of the night humans that were different from the surface. Even he couldn't explain it. Whoosh whoosh. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly heard the sound of strange flames erupting. Ling Xiao hurriedly turned his head to look. In the middle of the group, the ground suddenly cracked open and a ball of flame shot out. This flame was in the shape of a human, but it had no legs and floated in the air. It directly grabbed a Yin-Yang realm martial artist. The Yin-Yang realm martial artist was instantly burned to ashes, and yin-yang energy surged into the humanoid flame's body. Boom! Boom, boom, boom. Human-shaped flames emerged from the ground one by one and charged towards the martial artists who were advancing. Mo Dao and Wu Qinwang, who were at the front, naturally became the targets of the attacks. However, the two of them were too powerful. Before the humanoid flames could attack, they were already crippled by the two of them. However, the other martial artists were caught in a bitter battle. Kill. These humanoid flames have extremely rare and pure fire elemental energy. Don't waste it after killing them. Absorb whatever you can. I'll protect you. Ling Xiao opened his Tai Chi eye and could clearly see the yin-yang energy flowing within the humanoid flames. The yin-yang energy had become even purer after being refined by the flames. It could be absorbed directly. Perhaps this was the so-called coexistence of danger and opportunity. When Dan Feng and the others heard Ling Xiao's words, they spread out and attacked the humanoid flames they chose. These humanoid flames weren't very powerful. The strongest was only around the 7th stage of the yin-yang realm. The weakest was only at the 1st stage of the yin-yang realm. Hence, everyone could choose the most suitable opponent for themselves. After each of them destroyed a humanoid flame, they returned to Ling Xiao's side and started absorbing the energy. Ling Xiao immediately took out the Hell Dragon Talisman. The terrifying Hell Dragon Talisman floated in the air, and all the humanoid flames that approached were sucked in. Then they wailed in pain in the Hell Dragon flames. A large amount of pure energy was injected into Ling Xiao's body. He felt his cultivation begin to break through again. However, not all martial artists were as relaxed as Ling Xiao. Apart from martial artists above the 10th stage of the yin-yang realm, the rest of the martial artists weren't that lucky. After all, there were too many humanoid flames. They could kill one, but not a second. Many of them were killed by sneak attacks. Chapter 1762. Many martial artists were burned to ashes. Not even their corpses were left behind. The entire battlefield was as dangerous as purgatory. Many people regretted stepping into this territory. They wanted to escape, but it was too late. Ha ha ha, a bunch of trash. Don't come here to die if you're not at the 10th level of the yin-yang realm. Greedy people, now you're getting your retribution. In the crowd, a 10th level yin-yang realm martial artist laughed maniacally. He had no sympathy for the trash that were killed. How much stronger are you compared to them? You'd better shut your mouth and fight carefully. Although Ling Xiao did not want to waste his energy to save others, he still felt disgusted when he saw them kicking someone when they were down. Hence, he added another sentence. Brat, you're courting death. The 10th level yin-yang realm martial artist charged towards Ling Xiao. He was obviously attracted by the Hell Dragon Talisman that Ling Xiao released and wanted to snatch it. Boom! However, just as he was in midair, a huge human-shaped flame suddenly emerged from the ground. It was formed by black flames and was 50 to 60 meters tall. Its huge body instantly enveloped the 10th level yin-yang realm martial artist. There were more than a dozen martial artists that were implicated. The black flames burned instantly. The pitiful 10th level yin-yang realm martial artist did not even have time to scream before he died on the spot. Run! The appearance of this colossus caused a great deal of chaos among the martial artists. Ling Xiao's expression was also not very good. He turned around and glanced at his companions who were absorbing energy. He waved his hand and a ball of light covered them. Then he increased his speed and fled towards the huge human-shaped flame. Fortunately, there were many martial artists who were weaker than him. Hence, the huge human-shaped flame did not target him. Instead, it continued to burn and devour the other martial artists. It even targeted Mo Dao and Wu Qinwang, who were at the front. Mo Dao was enraged when he saw the huge monster charging towards him. I didn't plan to deal with you, but you're courting death. In his rage, he swung the black saber in his hand. The huge cross-shaped saber energy aimed at the huge flame monster's body and slashed. Cross-shaped demonic saber slash. Pucci. Boom. A martial artist at the 12th level of the yin yang realm was indeed powerful. A large amount of humanoid flames were torn apart by the energy from the cross-shaped saber energy. Then, the huge cross-shaped saber energy slashed onto the black humanoid flames. Although it did not directly kill him, it left 2 obvious wounds on his body, forming the shape of a cross. Divine Crocodile, Iron Water Cannon. Naturally, the martial prince would not resign himself to death. At the same time that the demonic blade attacked, his entire body transformed into a huge crocodile. Then he opened his huge mouth and shot out a huge water cannon. Rumble! The water iron cannon directly hit the wound of the black humanoid flame, piercing through its body. However, the monster's vitality was so tenacious that it was still resisting. Seeing this, Ling Xiao directly took out the 18 Hell Talismans. A terrifying ghostly hand reached out from the 18 Hell Talismans and dragged the black humanoid flame back in. Putting aside the fact that the demonic blade and the martial prince are powerful, Ling Xiao's cultivation is clearly not powerful. He looks like he's only at the 6th level of the yin-yang realm. How can he be so powerful? I think it must be the blood soul talisman's doing. This guy must have a powerful background. Otherwise, how could he obtain such a treasure? How could the martial artists not be shocked by Ling Xiao's performance? A 10th level of the yin-yang realm martial artist was burned to death by the black humanoid flame. But Ling Xiao was able to put the huge monster into the blood soul talisman. Ling Xiao's soul power was really powerful. Moreover, he was able to control 2 blood soul talismans at the same time. It was extremely shocking. In the distance, on a strange mountain range filled with lava, a young man around the age of 20 stood barefoot on the lava. He was wearing a fiery red shirt and his skin was dark and shiny. Next to him was a lion that was covered in flames. The young man looked into the distance. It was the place where Ling Xiao and the others were fighting. This group of people is really powerful. An old man behind the young man said solemnly, "Yeah, I didn't expect that even the Black Flame Duke would be killed by them. Those 3 people should be the strongest among them, right?" The young man said coldly, "Young lord, you should be right. I heard that a small leader of the Night Wind clan was also killed by that young man. They had close to 400 people when they came, but there are only about 100 of them left now. More than 10 of them are difficult to deal with. Of course, the most terrifying ones are those 3 people. Although that young man isn't strong according to the humans on the surface, his soul power is extremely terrifying. I'm afraid that he's stronger than many of the martial artists in our Nightman clan." The old man replied, "Humph, the humans on the surface all deserve to die. Since they dare to step into our Dark Fire clan's territory, let the black flames burn them all into ashes." The young man snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with cold and cruel light. This young man was the young lord of the Dark Fire clan. Although he was only 20 years old, his overall strength was definitely in the top 5 of the Dark Fire clan. In addition, the Dark Fire clan was the most powerful clan in the Nightman Kingdom. Therefore, his strength was extremely terrifying. "Young lord, with our help, we'll definitely kill all the humans on the surface." The ones who spoke were 2 old men clad in flame patterns. One had black flame patterns, while the other had golden flame patterns. "Ha ha ha, not bad. You 2 aren't weaker than the 2 surface martial artists at the 12th level of the yin-yang realm. As for that young man, I'll take care of him directly." The young lord of the Dark Fire clan laughed loudly. He was obviously in a good mood. Although the Black Flame Duke was killed, he was only a watchdog of the Dark Fire clan. It was a pity that he died. However, as long as he used the bodies of the surface martial artists as a sacrifice, he could make a second black flame tool. 2 hours later, after a series of battles, the martial artists finally found a relatively safe place. There were no more human-shaped flames harassing them. Everyone sat on the ground and rested. Looking at the dark road in the distance, they were all gloomy. There are only 80 people left. Ling Xiao glanced at the crowd and shook his head. This was the terror of the mystery realm. Although there were all kinds of opportunities here that could allow a person to obtain extremely powerful things. However, it could also cause a person to die tragically. Swoosh! Swoosh! Just as everyone was taking a breather, terrifying black fireballs suddenly fell from the sky. The fireballs landed on the ground, and the ground immediately burned. Some martial artists couldn't dodge in time and were hit by the fireballs. They could only scream in agony. Chapter 1763. Like birds startled by the twang of a bow, the martial artists frantically searched for the source of the attack. It came from a mountain, and a group of people were standing there. The huge fireball was fired by a catapult behind them. Standing at the front of the group was a young man riding on a flaming lion. His face was extremely domineering and cold. On either side of him stood an old man wearing a flaming black robe and a flaming golden robe. Both of them had powerful auras and sharp gazes. Just by standing there, he exuded a terrifying aura that struck fear into people's hearts. Expert. All the martial artists had the same feeling. Despicable and shameless surface humans, you will definitely pay a heavy price for your shamelessness. Today, none of you will leave this place alive. The young man suddenly spoke in the sacred dynasty language of the surface world. Although his tone was a bit strange, his words were clear and everyone understood. This guy, how come we have no enmity with him? How can he be despicable and shameless? Tian Haijun frowned, puzzled. Someone must have been here before us. That's why he said that. Feng Ming Wuyang stroked his beard and said, "That's possible. Do you think that the soul temple we've been searching for has already been taken by that person?" Spirit Core Elder asked with an ugly expression. "That's impossible." Ling Xiao shook his head. He didn't say why it was impossible. To open the soul temple, one needed a key, and the only key was the secret realm map in his hands. With the map in his hands, how could someone else open the soul temple? Even if someone had come to the underground world, they should have done something else. The young master of the Dark Fire clan looked coldly at the surface humans. Finally, his eyes locked onto the girls beside Ling Xiao. Those girls aren't bad. They can be captured alive. As for the rest, kill them. He laughed coldly, not taking Ling Xiao, Dan Feng, and the others seriously at all. Young master is wise. Although the surface humans are despicable and shameless, the women are beautiful. Their skin is white and tender, completely different from our night humans. The black-striped old man smiled. That's right. If we capture these girls, we might be able to give birth to a few beautiful descendants. They can be considered improved descendants of our Darkfire clan. The old man with golden tattoos also smiled, as if he did not put the warriors on the surface in his eyes at all. Ling Xiao's face instantly turned gloomy when he heard the words of the young master and the two old men. Since he dared to offend his friends, he would not show any mercy. Kill! The young master of the Dark Fire clan waved his hand, and the fireballs that blotted out the sky once again smashed out. Not only that, but the old man with gold and black tattoos also attacked at the same time. The two of them made strange postures with their hands. After that, they revolved their soul power. A black flame and a golden flame appeared in the sky. These two balls of flames were incomparably huge. It had a diameter of more than 10 meters. When thrown out, it was like a huge sun, causing people to be endlessly terrified. Many martial artists on the surface were dodging these small fireballs and didn't have time to pay attention. They were actually touched by the huge fireballs, and their bodies instantly burned. They died amidst mournful screams. The two huge fireballs were simply like sharp weapons of death that harvested lives. Ordinary martial artists couldn't withstand it at all. Even Fan Laolian, Fengming Wuyang, and the others could only dodge. Damn it, what the hell is this? Wu Qin Wang cursed inwardly. If these two huge fireballs were allowed to continue wreaking havoc, then the martial artists on their side would all die. In his rage, Wu Qinhuang transformed into a giant crocodile once again. He opened his mouth and spat out a huge iron water cannon, attempting to blast the fireballs away. However, right at this time, the flame lion under the young master of the Darkfire clan jumped up and actually blocked Wu Qinhuang's attack directly. The flame lion's strength was actually not inferior to Wu Qinhuang's. When Mo Dao saw this, his brows furrowed. Then he actually turned around and quietly crept to the edge of the team, preparing to wait for an opportunity to escape. The reason why this guy had never been caught by the authorities was that he could always escape at the most dangerous moment. It wasn't that he was very powerful, but because he was too cunning. Those people who were in cahoots with him were actually all betrayed and killed by him. Damn it, Dan Feng, Lu Lian, protect our people well. Seeing this, Ling Xiao knew that he had no choice but to take action. Although his cultivation was definitely not a match for the black-veined and golden-veined elders. However, the black and golden flames just so happened to contain the profound meaning of light and profound meaning of shadow. To him, not only was it harmless, but it was also a great supplement. He soared into the air, and a huge primordial sky fiend and primordial golden crow appeared behind him. The golden crow pounced on the golden fireball. The sky fiend pounced on the black fireball. At the same time, he threw out an alchemy formation stone. This was an alchemy formation stone that recorded the soul seizing formation. The soul seizing formation had dual effects. It could isolate external soul power and absorb internal soul power. When the alchemy formation stone flew out, it instantly revealed a ball of light, isolating the two fireballs from the outside world. Without the supply of soul power, the two fireballs were still powerful, but they couldn't be sustained. Moments later, they were completely torn apart and swallowed by the primordial sky fiend and primordial golden crow. This guy, the dark fire young lord, looked at Ling Xiao, and the corner of his mouth twitched violently. He really didn't expect Ling Xiao to be even more terrifying than he had imagined. The strength he displayed was not inferior to the two 12th level Yin-Yang realm martial artists at all. Young lord, leave that brat to me. The black-veined elder was furious. Ling Xiao dared to disrupt his attack, which made him feel very embarrassed. Young lord, leave it to me. The golden-veined elder was also frustrated. He also wanted to kill Ling Xiao to defend his dignity. You too, your opponents are those two people. The dark fire young lord pointed at Prince Wu and Mo Dao, who was about to slip away. Mo Dao cursed inwardly. Although he wasn't afraid of the two elders, he really didn't want to waste his energy to fight. It was simply frustrating. Yes, young lord, although the two elders were powerful, they didn't dare to disobey the dark fire young lord's orders. After all, in any place besides strength, authority was also the key to measuring a person's strength. The black-veined elder charged at Mo Dao. The golden-veined elder charged at Prince Wu. The other martial artists fought with the Darkfire clan's martial artists based on their own abilities. They knew very well that if they were afraid now, they would definitely die. The only thing in front of them was to kill, kill, kill. In terms of strength and battle experience, they weren't inferior to the Darkfire clan's martial artists. Previously, they had been ambushed, which was why they were in such a sorry state. Now that they were fighting face to face, they were naturally fearless. Dan Feng, Lu Lian, and the other 7 maintained their battle formation. In this way, the 8 of them had an easier time on the battlefield. Chapter 1764. Dan Feng, Lu Lian, and the rest of the 8 joined hands and coordinated with the battle formation that Ling Xiao gave them. It posed a great threat to the Darkfire clan's martial artists. But that flaming lion soon discovered the situation here and was released by the Darkfire clan's young lord to prepare to break their battle formation. Ling Xiao did not do anything for the time being. He just took an indifferent look at the battle situation. Although Dan Feng and the rest were fighting harder, they should not be defeated for a while. After all, Dan Feng and Lu Lian's strength was not ordinary. Together with the rest of the people and the battle formation's power, holding on for a period of time should not be an issue. This kind of battle was unavoidable. Ling Xiao had to let these people experience the terror of real combat. Only between life and death could one's potential be truly stimulated. Do you still have time to care about others? Next, you'll die in this young lord's hands. You should feel excited and proud because this young lord usually doesn't make a move. The Dark Fire clan's young lord appeared in front of Ling Xiao. Although he always felt that Ling Xiao's strength was too weak and that he could destroy those two balls of flames just now was also because of some treasure's power and not Ling Xiao's own strength. Such a person was really not worthy of him taking action. As the saying went, why use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? In other words, Ling Xiao was simply a toy to kill time in his eyes. Ling Xiao glanced at the other party indifferently and did not speak. This was already not the first time he was looked down upon like this. He already could not be bothered to say anything. The Taiji I rotated. The sword spirit I released a sword of slaughter. This was a sword body condensed from soul force, a sword body molded by the slaughter sword intent. The moment he held the slaughter sword in his hand, Ling Xiao's entire aura seemed to have changed. Horrifying killing intent erupted from his body, filling the entire battlefield. The Dark Fire clan's young lord sneered disdainfully. With a thought, he lightly waved his hand. A blazing arrow tore through the air and shot toward Ling Xiao's throat. The distance was so close. This blazing arrow was released very covertly. If it were an ordinary person, the throat would probably have been directly pierced. Of course, Ling Xiao was an exception. The terrifying raging flame arrow brushed past his hair and shot backward. When it landed, it actually exploded, creating a 2 to 3 meter deep crater. There were also black flames burning in the pit. Ling Xiao, who possessed the Tai Chi Eye, was able to detect the slightest movements of his opponent. This allowed him to make predictions in advance and then dodge the attack. However, Ling Xiao couldn't help but admire the Nightman race's method of attack. It was truly terrifying. Interesting. You actually managed to dodge this young master's attack. You're barely enough to let this young master move his limbs. The young master of the Dark Fire clan was surprised, but he didn't care. After all, this move of his was only a probing attack. If his opponent could not dodge it, then he would be too useless. Really? Just for you to do something? Ling Xiao sneered, and the 3-leaf demonic pupil in his right eye suddenly flashed with a strange demonic light. A pitch-black beam of light tore through the air at an extremely fast speed. Rumble. The young master of the Dark Fire clan looked down on Ling Xiao from the very beginning. He was extremely disdainful and contemptuous of Ling Xiao. This was why he didn't expect Ling Xiao to be proficient in such a strange eye technique. The beam of light was too fast, and he had no time to dodge it. He could only activate his soul power and set up a thick flame barrier in front of him in an attempt to block Ling Xiao's attack. A terrifying roar sounded. The flame barrier that the young master of the Dark Fire clan had hurriedly set up was directly broken by the black beam of light and then shattered into pieces. Although the beam of light had weakened a lot because of this, it still directly penetrated the young master of the Dark Fire clan. The young master of the Dark Fire clan was sent flying dozens of meters away before coming to a stop. Just as I expected, your Nightman race's soul power is strong, but your body is also quite weak. If it were a martial artist with the same strength as you, this attack wouldn't be able to penetrate his body. Ling Xiao could not help but say indifferently when he saw the young master of the Dark Fire clan stand up in a sorry state. Good boy. This young master has underestimated you. However, with your strength, you're only worthy of a little bit of attention from this young master. Although the young master of the Dark Fire clan was in a sorry state, and his expression was extremely ugly, this guy was unwilling to admit defeat. Therefore, this dead duck was very stubborn. Take this, stupid surface human. I'll let you have a taste of our Dark Fire clan's most powerful soul power. At this moment, the young master of the Dark Fire clan had no choice but to take Ling Xiao seriously. He used the soul power that made him famous. Raging Flame Storm. At that moment, his soul power was released like a gale, forming a terrifying vortex around his body. Then, this vortex burned with black flames and rushed toward Ling Xiao. Heaven Burning Eye, Hell Dragon Fire. Fighting fire with fire. Ling Xiao was not afraid of anyone. The terrifying fire dragon collided with the raging flame storm and actually tore it into pieces in an instant. Damn surface human, you're courting death. Seeing his raging flame storm being torn into pieces, the young master of the Dark Fire clan was clearly furious. An even more terrifying soul power was released, and an even thicker raging flame storm rolled up. Some of the surrounding martial artists who were unable to dodge in time were swept in and turned into ashes in an instant. Ling Xiao stood there, his expression unchanged. His opponent released an even stronger soul power, and he also increased the amount of soul power released. Roar! A dragon's roar suddenly came from the sky. The Hell Dragon Fire turned into an ancient hell dragon, and its huge claws tore through the raging flame storm. In the blink of an eye, that even more terrifying raging flame storm was torn apart by the ancient hell dragon. How is this possible? You're just a surface human. How can you have such powerful soul power? Are you a Soul Clan martial artist? The young master of the Dark Fire clan was really panicking now. Originally, he was disdainful of Ling Xiao because he felt that Ling Xiao's soul power was inferior to his. Therefore, using soul power to fight him was purely courting death. However, after this battle, he suddenly realized that his opponent was much more powerful than he had imagined. In terms of combat power, his ability was equivalent to a surface human at the 12th level of the Yin-Yang realm. The young man in front of him did not have such a powerful cultivation. How could he be his opponent? However, what he did not know was that Ling Xiao's soul power had always been stronger than his inner strength. The power of soul attacks was also stronger than inner strength. With Ling Xiao's current cultivation at the 8th level of the Yin-Yang realm, he could challenge surface martial artists at the 11th level of the Yin-Yang realm. If he used his soul power, he could challenge a 12th level of the Yin-Yang realm martial artist. The young master of the Dark Fire clan had really met his match today. I'm not from the Soul clan, nor am I from the Night clan. Actually, from the beginning, you were destined to fail because you underestimated me. Chapter 1765. The battle between Ling Xiao and the young master of the Dark Fire clan was too strange and grand. As a result, many cultivators on the battlefield stopped fighting and looked at them in astonishment, especially Mo Dao and Wu Qinwang. Their expressions were very strange. Mo Dao became even more jealous and ruthless. Wu Qinwang frowned as he pondered. He seemed to be considering if it was possible to subdue a terrifying genius like Ling Xiao. If he couldn't subdue him, then he might as well kill him to prevent him from becoming a problem in the future. Of course, Feng Ming, Wu Yang, Elder Spirit Pill, Fan Laolian, and Tian Haijun were even more shocked. Their cultivation levels were far higher than Ling Xiao's, but they did not dare to fight the young master of the Dark Fire clan. However, not only could Ling Xiao fight the young master of the Dark Fire clan, but he could also suppress him. What kind of genius was this? Could it be that the rumors were true? That the Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Empire would become the second human king? He can't be a human immortal genius, right? I think he's more like a true immortal genius. If news of a genius of this level were to spread, it would probably cause a commotion in the entire mystic world. You guys think too highly of him. In my opinion, he's at most a first reincarnation realm genius. Elder Spirit Pill said disdainfully. Spirit Pill Old Man said with disdain. Although he could see how powerful Ling Xiao was, he didn't believe that Ling Xiao was a true immortal realm genius. Think too highly of him? I think you're underestimating him. Don't forget that he's only at the 8th level of the Yin-Yang realm, but he can easily suppress a 12th level Yin-Yang realm cultivator. Generally speaking, those who could stand out among cultivators of the same cultivation level and be said to be invincible were peerless geniuses. They were different from ordinary geniuses. Those who could kill peerless geniuses who were one level above them would be known as rebirth realm peerless geniuses, because such geniuses had a high chance of breaking through to the rebirth realm. Those who could kill peerless geniuses who were two levels above them would be known as human immortal geniuses. Those who were able to surpass 3 levels and kill top geniuses would be hailed as true immortal level geniuses. The logic was the same. This man directly jumped over the 9th, 10th, and 11th levels and firmly suppressed the young master of the Darkfire clan. Tell me, is he not a peerless genius of the true immortal level? Yes, this. But in the entire White Tiger mainland, there isn't even a single peerless genius who has the qualifications to be called a true immortal. There were only 4 or 5 people who could be called geniuses at the human immortal level. This is really subverting the thinking of us old fellows. Perhaps because it was too shocking, many battles stopped for a while. This also gave the cultivators a chance to comment. Bullshit, true immortal level absolute genius. Even this young master doesn't have that qualification. You think you're worthy? The young master of the Darkfire clan grew even angrier when he heard the crowd's discussion. His terrifying soul power continued to leak out, and even the flaming lion was summoned back. Fuse! The flaming lion turned into a suit of eye-catching armor, which was worn by the young master of the Darkfire clan. Facing Ling Xiao, the Darkfire clan's young master raised both of his hands and madly released his soul power. In the sky, a huge black fireball appeared. This fireball had a diameter of a few hundred meters and almost enveloped the entire battlefield. The terrifying flames released a high temperature that caused the nearby cultivators to dodge. This kind of attack did not differentiate between friend and foe. Whoever was touched by this huge fireball would lose their life. Blackfire Emperor. Crack, 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 crack. Before the Blackfire Emperor was released, the ground was already covered by the black flames. This terrifying soul power instantly killed more than 10 pitiful cultivators. This included the surface cultivators, as well as the Darkfire clan. What a powerful attack! Ling Xiao frowned slightly. In the face of such a terrifying attack, he did not dare to slack off. Golden Crow Incarnation. Ling Xiao summoned the immemorial Golden Crow, which turned into a huge golden crow that was shining with golden light. Then, the terrifying heat continued to condense. On top of the golden crow's head, a divine light sword was suspended. To everyone's surprise, the divine radiant sword was absorbing energy from the Black Flame Emperor and growing bigger and bigger. Kill! The huge divine light sword merged with the Golden Crow incarnation and attacked together. The Blackfire Emperor had just been released and was directly penetrated. Then its energy became extremely unstable. The originally round Blackfire Emperor began to distort and deform. After a while, it burst like a balloon. Other than the crazy shock wave that created a deep pit in the ground, it did not cause any harm to Ling Xiao. You made 3 mistakes when dealing with me. First, you shouldn't have used soul power. Second, you shouldn't have used fire. Third, you shouldn't have attacked. Pucci! The terrifying divine light sword directly pierced the chest of the Darkfire young master, and an even more terrifying wound formed on his body. Blood flowed as the Darkfire young master was thrown out like a kite with a broken string. Young master, the black-striped old man and the golden-striped old man were shocked when they saw this scene. They knew very well how strong their young master was. Although he was still very young, he was the only human immortal realm genius in their Darkfire clan. Even the 2 of them couldn't defeat the 20-year-old young master. They did not expect that he would be defeated by a young man who looked less than 20 years old. This was simply a nightmare. The 2 of them directly abandoned their opponents and turned to save the Darkfire young master. Wu Qinwang and Demonic Blade were not willing to fight with all their strength. If they were not stopped by the black-striped old man and the golden-striped old man, they would definitely find a way to leave. Especially that demonic blade, he was simply cunning. At this time, seeing the two old men pouncing on Ling Xiao, not only did they not help, but they also stood by and watched. The reason was simple. Demonic Blade thought that Ling Xiao deserved to die. He was disrespectful to him, and his talent was too strong. It was definitely not beneficial to him to keep him alive. Wu Qinhuang thought that Ling Xiao's talent was too good. He was definitely not the kind of person who could be subdued. Therefore, he must die. The black-striped and golden-striped old men thought that they could save their young master by attacking Ling Xiao directly. However, Ling Xiao once again displayed a speed that they could not catch up to. In just an instant, Ling Xiao had already arrived in front of the Darkfire young master. I said that those who blaspheme my friends must die. You really shouldn't have attacked, and you shouldn't have blasphemed my friends. No one can save you today. Is this guy still human? He has a soul power more terrifying than the Nightman clan, and he has a terrifying speed that many martial artists on the surface can't catch up to. Tian Haijun was dumbfounded as he muttered to himself. After all, Ling Xiao had helped him before, so he still had a good impression of Ling Xiao. Flame Cage,